Chapter 608. In an instant, when Yang Tian and the little blue dragon reappeared, they had arrived at a very mystical planetary sector. In the middle of this planetary sector, there was a giant star. Revolving around it were 9 giant planets. The 9 planets were of different colors. According to their distance from the star, they were black, white, green, red, blue, yellow, cyan, purple, and gold. There were 9 huge planets, and each planet had 3 to 5 moons of varying sizes. The light from the star was reflected into space by the 9 planets, forming a peculiar 9-colored halo that enveloped this planetary sector. Yang Tian could not help but exclaim, "It's so beautiful!" At this time, the little blue dragon's eyes were also filled with enchantment. This was its home. It was really beautiful. Whoosh! Just as Yang Tian finished speaking, there was suddenly a whistling sound. There was a flash of black light, and a young man in black armor appeared in front of Yang Tian. This person had long black hair, and the black armor on his body was engraved with mystical dragon patterns. Judging from the energy ripples coming from this person, he should be at the superstar realm. The black-armored man stopped 100 meters away from Yang Tian and said coldly, "Human, please leave this place. The Dragon Starfield does not welcome you." Human? Was this person not a human? A huge question mark appeared in Yang Tian's mind. Suddenly, he realized that this was the Dragon Starfield. Most of the life forms that lived here were dragons. Clearly, this black-armored man was a dragon that had transformed into human form. Yang Tian knew from High Priest Kai's description that in this planetary sector, there were powerful beings that had transformed into human form. What made Yang Tian feel strange was that this person was only at the superstar realm. Dragon. How could he transform into a human? The little blue dragon was already at the great star god realm, but he could not transform into human form. "You are dragon?" The surprised Yang Tian could not help but ask. When Yang Tian asked this question, the black-armored young man frowned and his face darkened. It was like on Earth when one person asked another, "Are you a human?" There was a sense of cursing. Yang Tian had just arrived, and he didn't know the situation yet. He didn't want to have any conflicts with the dragon race. Seeing the black-armored young man's unhappy expression, he hurriedly said, "I'm not a human." "Oh, I should be considered half a dragon. There's also the little dragon. It's a complete dragon." After Yang Tian finished speaking, the black-armored young man glanced at the little blue dragon lying on Yang Tian's shoulder and said in a disdainful tone, "A proud dragon actually became a human's pet beast. Such a race is not allowed to appear in the Dragon Starfield." The moment Yang Tian heard, he could not help furrowing his brows. The black-armored youth's words were seriously too unpleasant to hear. This person looked down on the status of humans. The funny thing was, since he said humans were low class, why did he transform into a human's appearance? Yang Tian suppressed his anger and said, "Let me make it clear. Xiao Long is not my pet beast. We are brothers. We won't be staying here for long this time. Xiao Long wants to find his parents and meet them." As soon as Yang Tian's voice fell, the little blue dragon hurriedly nodded. "No." The black-armored young man still refused coldly. "I advise you to leave this place quickly, because becoming a human's pet beast will bring shame to the entire race." It seemed that the black-armored young man did not believe Yang Tian's words at all and firmly believed that the little blue dragon was Yang Tian's pet beast. After the black-armored young man finished speaking, the little blue dragon let out a low cry. It told the black-armored young man that he only needed to stay in the Dragon Starfield for a short period of time, and it was fine even if he did not meet his parents. When it said this, the little blue dragon appeared to be a little sad. It had never returned home since it was young. It did not expect to be chased away by its own kind as soon as it returned. If it were Yang Tian or anyone else, they would also be sad. The black-armored young man was a dragon, so he naturally understood what the little blue dragon was saying. However, he still did not agree and even took out a long black whip from his storage bracelet. It seemed that if Yang Tian and the little blue dragon did not leave, he was going to chase them away. For a moment, Yang Tian did not know what to do. Seeing Yang Tian's troubled expression, the black-armored young man shook the black whip and let out a whistling sound. He looked at the little blue dragon with a cold smile and said, "If you kill this person, according to the rules of the dragon race, it will be considered as washing away the shame on your body." As soon as the black-armored young man finished speaking, the little blue dragon opened its eyes and immediately left Yang Tian's shoulder and transformed into a golden dragon. Seeing the little blue dragon's appearance, the black-armored young man could not help but widen his eyes. Golden dragon. Within the dragon race, the golden dragon was the noblest existence. Within the dragon race, there was also a strict hierarchy. It could be seen from the arrangement of the planets. This black-armored young man's original form was obviously a black dragon. The black planet that he lived on was at the outskirts of the starfield. This meant that the black dragon should be the lowest level dragon among the dragon race. Boom! Just as the black-armored young man was still in shock, the little blue dragon opened its mouth and spat out a golden dragon flame at him. The black-armored young man's words just now had angered the little blue dragon. Facing the dragon flame that was coming at him, the black-armored young man screamed in shock. He did not have time to dodge and was enveloped by the golden dragon flame. To the little blue dragon, this black-armored young man was a must-kill. Therefore, when it spat out the dragon flame, the little blue dragon used its powerful spirit power to prevent the black-armored young man from escaping. Boom! There was a muffled sound. Suddenly, a dark red dragon ball rushed out of the flames and flew toward the nearest black planet. The angry little blue dragon unleashed a bolt of lightning and struck the dragon ball. With a loud bang, the dark red dragon pearl suddenly exploded and turned into a bright light in the universe, disappearing without a trace. The black-armored young man that was transformed from a dragon was killed by the little blue dragon just like that. The black-armored young man's death caused a huge commotion. What the little blue dragon Yang Tian did not know was that in this galaxy, it was fine for the dragons to fight, but they could not destroy the opponent's Dragon Ball. That was because the Dragon Ball was where the dragon's life essence and consciousness were. Even if the body was destroyed, the Dragon Ball could return to the planet and enter the Dragonized pool and form a powerful body again. The little blue dragon had destroyed this black dragon's Dragon Ball, which was equivalent to completely killing this black dragon. If there was no deep hatred between the dragons, such a situation would not occur in a battle between the dragons. The Dragon Galaxy was protected by a special glyph array. The dragons that lived in this galaxy lived very comfortably. Normally, most of the dragons, especially the dragons that had transformed into humans, would enjoy themselves to their heart's content. Every clan would only send a small number of dragons to patrol outside the planet. Although the dragons in this galaxy would often fight, the end result would at most be the destruction of their physical bodies. Deaths had not happened for a very, very long time. After the black dragon's Dragon Ball exploded in space, circles of energy fluctuations with the aura of death spread out into the distance. The first to notice it was the Black Dragon clan that lived on the Black Planet. The little blue dragon and Yang Tian did not realize the seriousness of the matter at all. After killing a black dragon that was in the way, the man and the dragon were preparing to go to the farthest golden planet. Thousands of powerful auras appeared from the nearest black planet and rushed towards Yang Tian and the others. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon stopped after noticing these auras. They both understood that after killing the black dragon, they would definitely alarm the Black Dragon clan. Although these auras were powerful, none of the dragons could compare to Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. In a few breaths, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were surrounded by a group of black dragons and black-armored Black Dragon clan soldiers that had transformed into human form. These dragons were far away from the little blue dragon and Yang Tian. This was because the little blue dragon and Yang Tian no longer hid the energy auras in their bodies. At the same time, these black dragons were also afraid of the little blue dragon's identity. The little blue dragon was a giant golden dragon. In the Dragon Clan, the giant golden dragon had the highest status. A portion of the giant golden dragon clan was born with it. For example, if a male and female dragon were both giant golden dragons, their descendants would also be giant golden dragons when they grew up. However, although this kind of dragon had the appearance of a giant golden dragon, it did not have a matching realm. There was also a type of giant golden dragon. After other dragons advanced, they activated the special bloodline in their bodies and grew into giant golden dragons. In the dragon clan, such dragons were rare, but every one of them was a powerful existence. It was worth mentioning that male and female dragons of different realms could not produce offspring when they were together. If Yang Tian knew this information, he would understand that the little blue dragon's parents should have been azure dragons when they were pregnant with the little blue dragon. In the dragon clan, the azure dragon clan status was still relatively high, second only to the giant golden dragon clan and the purple dragon clan. Yang Tian did not know much about the dragon clan. As for the little blue dragon, although it had inherited memories, it did not know much about it. Its inherited memories were filled with battle and survival experience. The little blue dragon's power and noble form intimidated all the black dragons. Although the black dragons surrounded Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, they did not dare to act rashly. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon looked at the many black dragons. When they did not understand the situation, although the black dragons looked unfriendly, they were not prepared to attack these black dragons first. If these black dragons attacked them, the little blue dragon and Yang Tian would not be polite. Time passed by slowly. Soon, the white dragon, who had a higher status than the black dragons, appeared. After a while, the green dragon, the red dragon, finally, the giant golden dragon arrived. The giant golden dragon that arrived was also in human form. He looked like a middle-aged man. This person had long golden hair and golden eyebrows. He wore a beautiful golden armor and looked extremely dignified and noble. As soon as he arrived, the other dragons took the initiative to make way for him. This middle-aged man stopped 1,000 meters away from the little blue dragon and Yang Tian. He sized up the little blue dragon and Yang Tian and asked indifferently, "What's going on?" As soon as this middle-aged man asked, a black-armored old man flashed over and told him what happened. This black-armored old man's words could be considered fair. From these words, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon knew that they had gotten into big trouble. They were outsiders, but as soon as they arrived, they violated the rules and killed a black dragon. Outside the dragon starfield, this was not a big deal. But this was the dragon starfield, so there were naturally dragon rules. This middle-aged man was also a great star god. After the black-armored old man finished speaking, he was silent for a moment and said indifferently, "No matter what, he is still considered a member of my giant golden dragon clan. Even if we want to deal with them, it is our clan's matter. You have no right. Let them come with me. We will naturally give your black dragon clan an explanation." After the middle-aged man in golden armor finished speaking, the black-armored old man pointed at Yang Tian and said, "He is not a dragon. We have to deal with him." Hearing this, Yang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. A cold expression appeared in the little blue dragon's eyes again. Chapter 609. The black dragons wanted to keep Yang Tian here. Among the 9 dragon tribes in the dragon starfield, the black dragons had the lowest status, and they cared a lot about their reputation. It was obvious that the black dragons could not do anything to the little blue dragon because the little blue dragon was a golden dragon. Its level was much higher than the black dragons. Therefore, the black dragons wanted to regain their reputation from Yang Tian. The middle-aged man in golden armor frowned. He felt that this was going to be difficult. Roar! Faced with the black-armored old man's unreasonable request, the little blue dragon let out a roar and stared at the black-armored old man coldly. This roar was the little blue dragon's declaration of war against the black-armored old man. The dragons loved to fight. The most direct way to solve a problem was to fight. You? Fine. Fine. Faced with the little blue dragon's declaration of war, the black-armored old man pointed at the little blue dragon and angrily said, "Fine," twice. This meant that he had agreed to the little blue dragon's challenge. The black-armored old man was an elder of the black dragons. He was also a great astro god. Unfortunately, in the process of increasing his level, he did not transform into a golden dragon. In other words, his physical body had not reached the strongest level among the dragons. The reason why the golden dragons had the highest status among the dragons was because their physical bodies were the most perfect when compared to others at the same level. Under the gaze of the other dragons, the black-armored old man shone with a black light. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a black dragon that was the same size as the little blue dragon. Roar! After the transformation, the black dragon let out a roar at the little blue dragon. A cold smile appeared on the little blue dragon's face. Its huge body flashed and pounced toward the black dragon. In an instant, it appeared above the black dragon's head and slammed its claw toward the black dragon's head. The black dragon lowered its head and swung its tail. It dodged to the side and dodged the little blue dragon's claw. Then, it turned around and opened its mouth to spit out a black dragon flame at the little blue dragon. The black dragon flame had a very high temperature. As soon as it appeared, the space around it began to distort. Faced with the dragon flame, the little blue dragon opened its mouth and spat out a golden dragon flame. Boom! A muffled thump rang out as the golden dragon flames dispersed the black dragon flames and continued to envelop the black dragon. In the dragon's flames, the black dragon's black dragon flame was clearly at a disadvantage. Looking at the golden dragon flames that were about to engulf him, a vicious look flashed across the black dragon's eyes. Suddenly, its huge body trembled, and it disappeared from where it stood. Seeing that, Yang Tian was. This was because when the two dragons were fighting, the space around them had solidified, forming a kind of domain. Only Great Star God Realm experts will be able to move freely in this sort of domain. Dragon, 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 dragons, dragon, dragon, dragon's head. The black dragon's sudden disappearance went against common sense. The black dragon must have used some special method. Dragons were as smart as humans. When they were fighting, they would use weapons, runic artifacts, and other support items. It broke through space. It has the power of runes. At this time, the voice of Bizarro programming rang in Yang Tian's mind. Just as Yang Tian expected, the black dragon used a runic artifact. The dragon race had existed in the universe for a very long time. A long time ago, they were very active in the universe. They had even enslaved humans. It was normal for such an ancient and powerful race to have a runic artifact. When the black dragon reappeared, it was already next to the little blue dragon. It bit at the little blue dragon's neck. The black dragon's speed was very fast, and it was too sudden. The little blue dragon could not react in time and was bitten on the neck by the black dragon. Seeing this, Yang Tian opened his eyes and wanted to help. But the middle-aged man in golden armor suddenly appeared next to Yang Tian and said to Yang Tian, "It's best if you don't interfere in their fight." Yang Tian looked at the middle-aged man in golden armor and snorted in dissatisfaction. Roar! The little blue dragon, whose neck was bitten by the black dragon, let out a roar of anger and pain. The black dragon bit at the little blue dragon's neck and tried to tear it apart. At this time, a large amount of dragon blood flowed out from the black dragon's mouth. This was not the black dragon's blood. It was the blood that flowed out from the little blue dragon's neck. Seeing this, Yang Tian's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he gritted his teeth. The middle-aged man in golden armor, who had been paying attention to Yang Tian, suddenly appeared in front of Yang Tian and looked at Yang Tian expressionlessly. Yang Tian clenched his fists and prepared for the next battle. However, before he could move, a bolt of lightning shot out from the little blue dragon's dragon horn and struck the black dragon. At this time, the black dragon spat out black dragon flames from its mouth. The powerful electric current made the black dragon's body tremble. The mouth that was biting the little blue dragon's neck loosened. The little blue dragon took this opportunity and shook its head violently, pulling its neck out from the black dragon's mouth. In order to escape from the black dragon's mouth, the little blue dragon paid a huge price. A few dragon scales on its neck fell off, and several deep wounds appeared on its neck. The wounds were burned by the black dragon flames and became charred black. Soon, red blood seeped out. The black dragon was very cunning. When the little blue dragon escaped from its mouth, it quickly dodged to the side. The little blue dragon, who had escaped, did not immediately attack the black dragon. This was because the black dragon's teeth were poisonous. The venom entered through its wounds and flowed along its blood, trying to corrode its body. This kind of venom could not cause fatal damage to the little blue dragon, but could affect the little blue dragon's movements for a short period of time. It had to be said that the black dragon had a lot of experience in fighting with its own kind. This was not strange. In the recent tens of thousands of years, the dragons of the dragon starfield rarely went out. Their usual training could only be with their own kind. It was worth mentioning that the dragon race respected strength. Whether it was to obtain a spouse, status, or honor, they had to defeat their competitors. The black dragon race's strength was their venom. Looking at the little blue dragon from afar, the black dragon's eyes showed a sneer. It was very confident in its own venom. Even if it was a golden dragon, after its venom entered its body, it would lose or greatly reduce its fighting ability for a long time. The little blue dragon's two big dragon eyes blinked at this time, seeming a little confused. In the eyes of the black dragon, this was a sign of being poisoned. When the black dragon saw the little blue dragon's current appearance, it was confident that its next attack would be able to completely defeat the little blue dragon. This was because not only did the venom have a numbing effect on the little blue dragon, but the black dragon also had a rune treasure that could break through domains. This allowed the black dragon to not be affected by the freezing of space when fighting, and could use its fastest speed. If it was a dragon that lived in the dragon starfield, it would be wary of the black dragon's venom when fighting with the black dragon. Although the little blue dragon did not know, its body was also invaded by the venom now. However, there was a strange origin power in its body. Under the effect of the origin power, the venom in the little blue dragon's body was quickly removed. The smart little blue dragon still pretended to be confused at this time. This was called all is fair in war. At this time, the little blue dragon's wound had already stopped bleeding, and the wound was healing at an extremely fast speed. When the black dragon saw this recovery ability, it was incomparably envious. It had already entered an old state. Although it had great strength, the vitality of its body could not be compared to a young dragon. I can't wait any longer. A fierce look flashed across the black dragon's eyes again. This time, it decided to completely destroy the little blue dragon's body. If there was a chance, it would be best if it could devour the little blue dragon's dragon pearl. In this way, it would have a chance to evolve into a golden dragon. It was not only humans who had greed, but also dragons. The black dragon's body disappeared on the spot once again. This attack method was the same as before. In countless battles with its own kind, it had always used this method to win against stronger competitors. In the end, it became one of the elders of the Black Dragon clan and had a high position in the Black Dragon clan. Although the opponents it defeated all knew that it had a rune treasure and wanted to guard against this attack method, it was useless. In a situation where the difference in strength was not much, speed was the key to victory. The little blue dragon, who was no longer affected by the venom, was always on guard against the black dragon's attacks. It also had a unique attack method. That was mental power. Mental power was very special. It could ignore space and even time energy. The moment the black dragon disappeared, the little blue dragon also moved. Powerful mental power erupted from its body and formed a new domain around the little blue dragon. In this domain, the little blue dragon could also move at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, mental power could also help the little blue dragon sense and restrain the black dragon. When the black dragon appeared again, it was already above the little blue dragon. It lowered its head and bit the back of the little blue dragon's neck. Last time, the little blue dragon did not pay attention. It did not expect the black dragon to have a rune treasure and fell into the black dragon's trap. This time was different. The little blue dragon was prepared. If it was in ancient times, this kind of battle would be unfair. Killing intent appeared in the little blue dragon's heart once again. It did not care about the rules of the dragon clan. Was a dragon that was bound by rules still a proud dragon? In an instant, the black dragon opened its mouth and was about to bite the little blue dragon. Seeing this situation, Yang Tian became nervous again. However, when he felt the little blue dragon's calm mood, he could not help but laugh. This was a rare battle between great star god-level dragons in the Dragon Clan. It was very exciting. The little blue dragon and the black dragon's every move made the surrounding dragons widen their eyes. Some dragons hated the black dragon and hoped that the little blue dragon would win. There were also dragons who looked down on the little blue dragon who stayed with humans and hoped that the black dragon clan's elder would win. The black dragon originally thought that it could bite the little blue dragon again. However, the little blue dragon actually flashed in front of its eyes and moved to the side, causing it to bite empty air. At this moment, the black dragon's eyes widened. It had a bad feeling. As expected, when it wanted to use the rune artifact to move quickly again, it suddenly realized that its body was trapped by a powerful and strange power, making it difficult for it to move. This power was not spatial power, because if it was spatial power, it would not be able to trap it, because it had the rune artifact that could break through spatial power. Spirit power. In an instant, the black dragon thought of a possibility. Only mental power could achieve such an effect. The black dragon did not expect that a dragon could use the spirit power that humans were so good at. The little blue dragon took the opportunity to trap the black dragon and bit the black dragon's neck, just like how the black dragon did to it before. Boom! At the same time, the little blue dragon spat out golden dragon flames from its mouth. The dragon flames contained the force and had great destructive power. Not only that, when the little blue dragon bit the black dragon's neck, the energy within its body was continuously transferred into the black dragon's body. This power also had the force attribute. Roar! The black dragon that was bitten by the little blue dragon opened its mouth and let out a roar. Before it could even finish its roar, its head was suddenly separated from its body. The little blue dragon's dragon flames had burned off its neck. The terrifying, destructive power of the force was something that even a dragon would find difficult to defend against. Seeing this, the dragons that were watching, including the middle-aged man in golden armor, were all shocked. Because after the black dragon's head was separated from its body, the life force in its body also disappeared. Where was its dragon pearl? Even if its physical body was destroyed, as long as its dragon pearl was still there, it could still enter the Dragonized pool to rebuild its physical body. The little azure dragon couldn't be blamed for this, because the black dragon that it had just killed had also revealed its intention to kill it. If the little blue dragon was killed by the black dragon would take the opportunity to swallow the little blue dragon's dragon pearl. The dragons that were watching could all see this. Now that the black dragon had been killed by the little blue dragon, the dragons of the Black Dragon Clan had no reason to care about the little blue dragon and Yang Tian. According to the rules, the little blue dragon's previous killing of a young dragon guard of the Black Dragon Clan was also written off. After the little blue dragon killed the Black Dragon Clan's elder, it returned to Yang Tian's side. Yang Tian hurriedly checked the wound on the little blue dragon's neck. Seeing that the little blue dragon was fine and that the wound was no longer bleeding and had begun to heal, Yang Tian finally breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately, Yang Tian took out a superstar warrior level beast core from his storage bracelet and put it into the little blue dragon's mouth. Seeing that Yang Tian casually took out a superstar level beast core for the little blue dragon to swallow, many dragons had envious expressions in their eyes. After what had happened just now, everyone could see that Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were indeed not master and servant. After the Black Dragon Clan's elder was killed by the little blue dragon, some of the people who had transformed into human form immediately flashed in front of the huge dragon corpse. Roar! 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 When a member of the Black Dragon Clan took out a dark red dragon pearl about 1 meter in diameter from the dragon's mouth, all the black dragons raised their heads and roared. They used this method to send off the clan's elder. When Yang Tian saw this situation, he finally understood why the Dragon Clan had to transform into humans. It was because only humans could do many delicate things, such as taking out the dragon pearl from the dragon's mouth. Other than these simple things, such as building houses, making tools, and so on, it was very difficult to complete them with a dragon's body. Unless all dragons were like the little blue dragon and could use spiritual power to control objects. Looking at the huge dragon pearl, Yang Tian was a little covetous. This was a good thing. If he could obtain it, he could make it into a great star god-level beast core. Although the black dragon was killed by the little blue dragon, most of the energy in his body was condensed in the dragon pearl. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Yang Tian threw it out of his mind. Because at the same time, a strong feeling of resistance appeared in Yang Tian's heart. Because that was the dragon pearl. During his previous training, Yang Tian had to consume a black dragon's dragon pearl in order to kill Gueo. But that time, it was the little blue dragon who took the initiative to give the dragon pearl to Yang Tian. The black dragons looked at the little blue dragon and Yang Tian with hatred in their eyes and flew towards the black planet with the dragon pearl and the dragon corpse. This battle was finally over. The black dragon clan left, but the dragons of the other clans remained in place and did not disperse. Because the little blue dragon and Yang Tian were outsiders, they had to listen to the golden-armored middle-aged man's opinion. Chapter 610. All of you disperse. The golden-armored middle-aged man looked at the dragons of various colors around him, waved his hand, and said indifferently. Only then did the crowd of dragons disperse and return to their respective planets. The little blue dragon turned back into a mini dragon and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. After all the dragons left, the golden-armored middle-aged man said indifferently, "This matter is considered over, but you can't stay in the dragon star domain for long. Once you're done with your business, you'd better leave as soon as possible." After saying that, the golden-armored middle-aged man looked at the little blue dragon and said, "Although you're also a dragon, you don't belong here. Your temperament has decided that you should roam the outside world. We're here this time to find Xiaolong's parents." After the golden-armored middle-aged man finished speaking, Yang Tian immediately said, "Follow me." After the golden-armored middle-aged man finished speaking, he turned around and flew towards the golden planet in the distance. Yang Tian brought the little blue dragon and immediately followed. After landing on the huge golden planet, Yang Tian realized that the situation on the planet is different from what he imagined. Looking from the starry sky, this planet is golden, but on the ground, the environment is basically the same as Earth. On this planet, there were yellow lands, green forests, and blue oceans. There were also many islands in the ocean. The gravity of the planet is not as great as Yang Tian had guessed. It is only about 1.5 times that of Earth. The reason why it looks golden when looking from the starry sky is because there are many tall talisman arrays set up on the surface of this planet. These talisman arrays are constantly operating, and on each array platform, there is a huge golden dragon coiled up. They look like they are sleeping. The golden light is emitted from these dragons and projected into the sky. Therefore, looking from the outside, this planet looks golden. Whether it is the land, the ocean, the islands, or the forests, they're all covered with such talisman arrays. The scene looks very spectacular. Other than these huge array platforms, there are also many exquisite and grand palaces. The palaces are all golden. After landing on the planet, Yang Tian carefully sensed the energy fluctuations emitted by the dragons on the planet. What made Yang Tian surprised was that on this planet, there was actually no dragon whose realm surpassed the great star god realm. This was a very strange matter. Among the humans, there could be experts that surpassed the great star god realm. So why couldn't there be any in the dragon race? This is the golden dragon star. After landing, the golden-armored middle-aged man looked at Yang Tian and said, "The seniors who built the dragon starfield were the same as you. They all came from the same planet." This is something that happened millions of years ago. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, Yang Tian opened his eyes wide. Seeing Yang Tian's surprised expression, the golden-armored middle-aged man continued, "Actually, our ancestors came from outside this universe, and so did your ancestors. In the distant past, The environment of this universe was not like this. Yang Tian finally understood why this planet was called the Golden Dragon Planet. Golden, this description came from the language of the humans on Earth. Previously, when Yang Tian heard the golden-armored middle-aged man say the three words Golden Dragon Planet, he thought it was a coincidence. As for the ancestors of the humans on Earth also came from outside this universe, Yang Tian did not find it strange. Last time, in the small world of the Star Mine Master, he almost died. The mysterious black-robed man showed him that no matter if it was strength or aura, it was not something the humans of this universe could compare to. From the golden-armored middle-aged man's words, Yang Tian could guess that if the little blue dragon was not taken away from the dragon starfield, then it must be the descendant of the dragons that existed on Earth for millions of years, or even longer. Perhaps, according to seniority, the little blue dragon was the ancestor of the dragons in the dragon starfield. Thinking of this possibility, Yang Tian wanted to laugh. The little blue dragon was very smart and naturally understood the meaning of the golden-armored middle-aged man's words. At this time, its expression was a little nervous. The little blue dragon hoped to find its parents in a dragon starfield. Then, how can we find Xiaolong's parents? After the golden-armored middle-aged man finished speaking, Yang Tian asked. The golden-armored middle-aged man said, "It's very simple. Through its bloodline, we can know which clan it belongs to and which era it was born in. Come with me." After saying that, the golden-armored middle-aged man flashed and disappeared from the spot. Yang Tian immediately followed. The golden-armored middle-aged man brought Yang Tian and the little blue dragon to a huge temple-like building. This building was like the Temple of Heaven built in the Ming Dynasty in China. The whole building was golden. In fact, it was built with gold as the main alloy material. In this temple, the circular walls were covered with murals. On the murals were dragons of various shapes and sizes, as well as other strange beasts. In the center of this building, there was a high platform. The golden-armored middle-aged man brought Yang Tian and the little blue dragon to the high platform. On the stage, Yang Tian discovered that in the middle of the stage, there was a pool with a diameter of about 5 meters. The pool was filled with multicolored liquid that emitted a faint glow, making it look extremely beautiful. This is our Dragon Clan's bloodline pool. Like the transformation pool, it is our Dragon Clan's treasure. After saying that, the golden-armored middle-aged man said to the little blue dragon, "Take a drop of blood and drip it into the bloodline pool. Perhaps you can get the answer." The little blue dragon nodded and left Yang Tian's shoulder, transforming into a Xiaolong several meters long in the air. Floating above the bloodline pool, the little blue dragon scratched its forehead. A cut appeared on its forehead, and a drop of blood seeped out. This was just a drop of ordinary blood. Under the nervous expression of the little blue dragon, the drop of blood dripped into the bloodline pool. The liquid in the bloodline pool was originally calm. When the little blue dragon's drop of blood dripped into the bloodline pool, the liquid in the bloodline pool boiled like water. The runes engraved on the side of the pool immediately lit up. In the sky above the bloodline pool, the image of a dragon appeared. Because it was an image, it was impossible to distinguish its color. However, on the forehead of this dragon, there was an obvious flame-shaped mark. When the little blue dragon and Yang Tian saw it, they didn't think much of it. However, the golden-armored middle-aged man's eyes widened in surprise. Under the curious eyes of Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, the golden-armored middle-aged man turned around and prostrated himself on the ground towards the little blue dragon. He said, "So, you are the descendant of the ancestral dragon. We have been rude." Ancestral dragon? Yang Tian rolled his eyes and understood. It turned out that the little blue dragon's seniority was very high. In terms of seniority, it was the ancestor of these dragons. It seemed that finding the parents of the little blue dragon wasn't as simple as finding the dragon starfield. Chapter 611. In his excitement, the golden-armored middle-aged man bowed to the little blue dragon, stood up, and said to the little blue dragon, "Your parents are definitely not in the dragon starfield." Because when the dragon starfield appeared, the ancestral dragons had long ceased to exist in this universe. After the golden-armored middle-aged man finished speaking, the little blue dragon's expression became gloomy. The little blue dragon, who had great expectations before, had worked for nothing. At this time, Yang Tian comforted the little blue dragon. Xiaolong, don't be discouraged. Let's go to that world. Maybe there, you can find your parents. The little blue dragon nodded. Since they already knew the answer, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon didn't need to stay in the dragon starfield. When Yang Tian was about to say that he wanted to leave, the golden-armored middle-aged man smiled and said, "Don't be in a hurry to leave now. The scenery of the dragon starfield is very beautiful. You can stay for a while. You may be interested in some of the treasures and special places of our dragon clan." Previously, the golden-armored middle-aged man suggested that Yang Tian and the little blue dragon leave as soon as possible. But now that he found out that the little blue dragon was the descendant of the ancestral dragon, he wanted to keep them and was very enthusiastic. "Xiaolong, what do you think?" Yang Tian asked the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon nodded. The little blue dragon was also very curious about this starfield. Seeing that the little blue dragon agreed, the golden-armored middle-aged man smiled happily. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon didn't notice that a trace of excitement flashed through the golden-armored middle-aged man's eyes. "What is an ancestral dragon?" Yang Tian asked curiously as they walked out. The golden-armored middle-aged man said, "The ancestral dragons in our dragon clan are the first to third-generation dragons. The fourth to ninth generations are called the descendants of the ancestral dragon. From the 10th generation onwards, the bloodline power in our bodies is far inferior to the first 9 generations. In the later process of inheritance, you also saw the black dragon, white dragon." When the golden-armored middle-aged man said this, Yang Tian finally understood that this kind of definition should be related to bloodline. After the golden-armored middle-aged man finished speaking, Yang Tian smiled and said, "I still don't know your name? My name is Xiaolong." The golden-armored middle-aged man said, "Dragon Long Long, how a good name." Yang Tian praised. At this time, Yang Dragon's Long Long Dragon's heart. Dragon Little Blue Dragon was ancestral dragons, and Little Dragon. Yang was Dragon's descendant ancestral dragon. No matter how young this ancestor was, he would be especially respected. After leaving the temple, Yang Tian looked at the high platforms in the distance and asked, "What are those?" Yang Tian was asking about the platforms where the dragons were entrenched. When Yang Tian passed by those platforms earlier, the strange program had reminded him that each of those platforms was shrouded in a type of time energy. Long Hao glanced at the platforms in the distance and sighed. Because their lifespans have reached the end, they chose to hibernate in order to survive in this world, until the day the ancestral dragons returned to this place. Speaking up to here, Long Hao did not continue speaking. Not only humans, but dragons were also afraid of death. They would do everything they could to prolong their existence in this world, because after death, there would be nothing left. Long Hao arranged for Yang Tian and the little blue dragon to stay in a luxurious, small palace. After coming here, Yang Tian realized that dragons were the same as humans. They also knew how to enjoy life. The palace was spotless, and all the utensils were clean as if they were new. The floor was covered with soft carpets. After coming to this palace, Yang Tian did not discover any high-tech things, but there were many tools that used rune energy. For example, the crystal-like chandeliers at the top of the palace were lit by the energy of burning stellar crystals. The palace's temperature was also adjusted by rune arrays. The dragon clan here was much more meticulous in their use of runes than the humans outside. After bringing Yang Tian and the little blue dragon to the palace, Long Hao immediately left to let Yang Tian and the little blue dragon have a good rest. Tomorrow, a grand banquet would be held for the little blue dragon and Yang Tian. The elders of various races would be invited to the banquet. Yang Tian did not object. He was also very curious about the dragons. Such a luxurious palace naturally had butlers, servants, and so on. After Long Hao left, 18 beautiful women walked in and bowed to the little blue dragon and Yang Tian. After getting up, the leading young woman said to Yang Tian and the little blue dragon that they could satisfy any needs of the guests. Yang Tian sized up the 18 beautiful women and was surprised to find that only 8 of them were dragons. As for the other 10, they were transformed from other exotic beasts. This made Yang Tian feel as if he had entered the world of fairies. Actually, this was not strange. When creatures evolved to a new realm, they could change the body's cell structure and rearrange the cells. This was the so-called transformation. This was a fundamental change in appearance. It was much more advanced than the plastic surgery technology of humans on Earth, and there were no side effects. Although the young women arranged by Long Hao were servants, they were all life forms of the superstar realm. Not only were they beautiful, but they were also very seductive. They looked like they were ready to be tasted. The dragons were a powerful race. They were even more open than humans when it came to these conveniences. Seeing the young and beautiful dragon women, the little blue dragon could not help but open his eyes wide. This was the first time he had such close contact with the opposite sex of the same race. The male hormones in his body were probably rapidly secreting. Although they were all human in appearance, he could tell which race they belonged to from the life aura they emitted. This was an ability that was born after a life form evolved to a high level. He was not interested in human women, but the little blue dragon had a different feeling when it came to dragon women. In the dragon race, powerful male dragons were even more possessive than human men. Seeing the hungry look in the little blue dragon's eyes, Yang Tian could not help but laugh. He thought that the little blue dragon had really grown up and even had the desire to pick up girls. You stay. The rest of you can leave. Yang Tian pointed at a woman who was not a dragon and said with a smile. When Yang Tian said that, the little blue dragon's eyes were filled with disappointment. He was still thinking about having intimate contact with the dragon women. It was not as troublesome for male dragons to pursue female dragons as it was for humans. They also had to look at appearance, family background, wealth, and so on. As long as a male dragon was strong enough, he could get any kind of female dragon. The 18 maids looked at each other and said yes. The young woman who was designated by Yang Tian stayed, and the others immediately turned and left. Chapter 6:12. After the 17 maids left, the little blue dragon helplessly jumped onto a beam at the top of the hall and closed its eyes to take a nap. At the same time, it expressed its dissatisfaction with Yang Tian. Little Azure Dragon had no interest in the young woman who was not from the dragon clan. What's your name? Yang Tian glanced at the petulant little blue dragon, sat on the carpet, and asked the maid with a smile. Then, he gestured for her to sit down. My name is Qing Yin, from the Wing clan. The maid replied and sat down in front of Yang Tian. Wing clan. Yang Tian was very curious. Qing Yin said, in the Dragon Starfield, the Wing clan has wings and is a life form that can fly. What is Long Hao's status in the Dragon clan? Yang Tian asked again. This was the reason why Yang Tian left Qing Yin behind. In front of Long Hao, Yang Tian couldn't ask these things. In addition to knowing Long Hao's identity, he also wanted to know some things about the Dragon clan in the Dragon Starfield. When Yang Tian asked this, the little blue dragon suddenly opened its eyes. Qing Yin replied, Long Hao is the great elder of the Golden Dragon clan, and also the youngest elder in history. He is very powerful. Yang Tian nodded and asked again, Is there no king in your dragon clan? Qing Yin said, There used to be one, but after a few wars, the dragon clan abolished the king and changed the elders to jointly discuss and decide on the clan's affairs. In fact, in the Dragon Starfield, there are usually no major matters. The elders are very idle. Then what do you rely on to cultivate? This is a sealed space. After a long time, there shouldn't be any resources left, right? Yang Tian asked again. When Yang Tian asked this question, Qing Yin's expression became gloomy and said, The dragon clan devours beast cores. Speaking up to here, Qing Yin couldn't say anything. Seeing Qing Yin's expression, Yang Tian suddenly understood. All right, there's nothing else. You can go. Yang Tian raised his hand and said to Qing Yin. Qing Yin was stunned, then stood up, bowed to Yang Tian, and left the palace. After Qing Yin left, Yang Tian stood up and sat on a comfortable chair. At this time, the little blue dragon jumped down and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. Little dragon, things might not be as simple as we think. We need to be careful. Yang Tian used his mental power to speak to the little azure dragon. The little azure dragon had already calmed down and nodded. The sky gradually darkened. Long Long Hao's dragon clan. Was Long Hao was Dragon Clan's dragon clan. Ever since he found out that the little blue dragon was the descendant of the ancestral dragon, the excitement in Long Hao's heart had never faded. To him and the dragon clan of the Dragon Starfield, this was a great opportunity. The Golden Dragon Clan's elders quickly arrived at Long Hao's Dragon Clan's teleportation formation disk. Including Long Hao, the Golden Dragon Clan had a total of 38 elders. They were all present and sat in a circle. Long Hao, speak. What's the matter? Why did you call us here in such a hurry? After everyone was seated, an elder said lightly. Other than Long Hao, the other elders present still didn't know that the little blue dragon was the descendant of the ancestral dragon. However, they all knew that Long Hao had invited an outsider of his kind and a human to his territory. All the elders knew that Long Hao must have invited them over for this matter. Long Hao laughed when the elder asked. He didn't immediately talk about the little blue dragon. Instead, he said, "Our abandoned clan has lived in this universe for many years." When Long Hao finished talking, everyone did not make a sound. The moment this matter was mentioned, they were all very upset. The Dragon Starfield looked like a place with a beautiful environment and excellent living conditions to them. But in reality, it was a cage. For countless years, not a single dragon was able to successfully leave this universe and reach another world. Even if they advanced to the realm of great astral deity, they could only wait for time to trickle by, finally walking to the end of their lives, or choose to sleep. The elders were silent for a while. An elder suddenly opened his mouth and said, "Long Hao, what do you want to say?" Long Hao smiled and said, "Now we have an opportunity, a massive opportunity. You all don't know, that fellow who barged in previously is actually the descendant of the ancestral dragon." The moment Long Hao's voice faded, the elders could not help opening their eyes wide. Ha ha! Seeing the elders' reactions, Long Hao started laughing excitedly. Amidst Long Hao's laughter, looks of excitement and greed all appeared in the eyes of these elders. If we're able to obtain its bloodline, we can also turn ourselves into the ancestral dragon's descendants. This way, we'll be able to pass through that passageway of the dragon prison smoothly and enter a new world, and not stay in this world to wait for death. The moment Long Hao's laughter faded, an elder said agitatedly. Long Hao was the first to know about this matter. The plan, he already formulated it. The reason why he gathered the elders in the clan was also in order to let them cooperate with his plan at the appropriate time. Wanting to obtain the ancestral dragon's bloodline isn't that easy either. My idea is like this. Long Hao talked out the plan. After he finished talking, the elders fell silent all at once. Because to them, this plan was seriously somewhat too cruel. No other way. After Long Hao finished talking, he was silent for a long time again. Only then did an elder open his mouth and say with furrowed brows. Long Hao said, "No other way. We can only do so. The ancestral dragon's bloodline. If he's not willing, we can't forcefully demand it either. But doing it according to this plan, the success rate can at least be 80%. The elders present were all tormented by time to the point that they were about to go crazy. They yearned for the plan to succeed, even more than Long Hao. Long Hao is still very young. These old elders, to them, did not have much time left. In the end, they all agreed to this plan. The huge star had already set below the horizon. In the sky, 5 big moons appeared, projecting 9 colored rays of light down, forming a dreamy night. In the luxurious, nameless little palace, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon had already arrived at the top of the palace. One man and one dragon looked at the 5 big moons in the sky, their eyes filled with amazement. This kind of night was simply too beautiful. At this time, Yang Tian was thinking if he could find Xiao Fei in the future, he could come to the Dragon Starfield and live peacefully. After a long time, Yang Tian woke up and released Belle from the storage bracelet, letting Belle take a picture of the night scene here. At that time, if he found Qin Fei, he could show her this scenery. Belle flew a circle around the palace, recording the sky and the surrounding situation. At this time, a beautiful woman frowned and came to the entrance of the palace, appearing in front of Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's eyes. This young woman was very beautiful, not inferior to Qin Fei in terms of looks. She was wearing a blue dress, and her long golden hair was casually draped over her shoulders. Her skin was as white as jade, and under the nine-colored light, a faint halo appeared on her body. She looked like a fairy who had walked out of a dream. After Yang Tian and the little blue dragon saw this young woman, their eyes never left. From the aura emitted from her body, it could be seen that she was a beauty of the dragon clan. Moreover, her status in the Golden Dragon clan should not be low. Ordinary maids or women of low status would not have such a noble temperament. She was a female dragon in the great Star-Lord realm. Yang Tian was the first to wake up. He looked at the little blue dragon's eyes and suddenly laughed. The little blue dragon was in love. This young woman stood at the entrance of the palace for a few minutes. Then, for some reason, she turned and left. Xiaolong, hurry up, Yang Tian said to the little blue dragon with a smile. The little blue dragon, who used to do things straightforwardly, hesitated at this time, looking a little bashful. Seeing the little blue dragon's annoying look, Yang Tian grabbed it and threw it at the beautiful dragon girl. Chapter 613. Yang Tian's throw was very accurate, and the little blue dragon landed a few meters in front of the beautiful dragoness. Seeing the little blue dragon in front of her, the beautiful dragoness frowned again, but stopped. After the little blue dragon got up, it felt that it was too small and immediately transformed into a dragon more than 10 meters long. It looked at the beautiful dragoness with a smile in its eyes. In fact, dragons look for a mate by feeling the other party's aura, not by looking at their appearance. To the little blue dragon, this beautiful dragoness made the little blue dragon feel very comfortable, whether it was her appearance or the aura emitted from her body. The beautiful dragoness sized up the little blue dragon and smiled slightly. Seeing the smile on the dragoness's face, the little blue dragon couldn't help but be stunned. It only reacted after the other party passed by it and left. On the top of the palace, Yang Tian helplessly shook his head when he saw this situation. The little blue dragon was usually quite clever, but he didn't expect it to become silly when it encountered this kind of situation. What Yang Tian and the little blue dragon didn't know was that not far away, Long had seen everything that had just happened. Everything was developing according to his plan. After the little blue dragon returned to the palace, it became a little unhappy. Perhaps it was worried about its performance just now. It felt that its performance was worse than Yang Tian's previous performance. Seeing the little blue dragon's unhappy look, Yang Tian told the little blue dragon that if he had the chance tomorrow, he would help the little blue dragon ask Long who that beautiful dragoness was. No, what kind of dragon was she? If the other party didn't have a mate, he would ask Long how to help and see if he could match the little blue dragon with that dragoness. When Yang Tian said this, the little blue dragon became happy. This planet was very big. The day and night were several times longer than Earth's. Yang Tian slept soundly, but the little blue dragon stayed up all night, full of anticipation. At daybreak, the girl named Qing Yin and the other 17 maids walked into the hall. Qing Yin told Yang Tian and the little blue dragon that Elder Hao Tian had invited them to a banquet. Long had already told Yang Tian and the little blue dragon about this yesterday. The maids also brought 2 sets of gorgeous golden robes, one for the little blue dragon and the other for Yang Tian. Long Hao probably didn't expect that the little blue dragon didn't know how to take human form. Yang Tian put on the golden robe and looked at himself in the mirror. He wasn't very handsome, but his temperament was much more noble. Of course, this was only Yang Tian's feeling. The little blue dragon still stayed on Yang Tian's shoulder. Under the guidance of the maids, Yang Tian sat on a large carriage pulled by a lion beast and traveled through the wide streets. This planet was very big, but the proportion of Dragon Clan living on this planet was very small. The Beast Clan was the most numerous. The Golden Dragon Clan had the least number of dragon clans in the entire Dragonstar field. However, they were very powerful and had a dominant position. Under the gaze of countless beast clans in the city, the carriage arrived in front of a huge palace. In front of the palace, there were already 2 rows of Dragon Clan soldiers wearing gorgeous golden armor. Their expressions were solemn. After getting off the carriage, Yang Tian brought the little blue dragon into the palace under the guidance of a ceremonial officer. After passing through a long and wide path, they entered a magnificent hall with golden walls. The entire hall was tens of thousands of square meters. There were rows of long tables, and in front of each table sat a noble Dragon Clan member. From the color of their robes, one could tell which clan they belonged to. The Black Dragon Clan wore black robes, the White Dragon Clan wore white robes. Each branch of the Dragon Clan had about 20 to 30 people. These people were all elders of the various clans. There were 9 branches of the Dragon Clan, and there were about 300 people. Most of them were beautiful Beast Clan maids. They carried all kinds of fruits, pastries, and drinks as they shuttled back and forth in the hall. Originally, the hall was very lively, but when Yang Tian walked in, everyone fell silent. The music also stopped. Long Hao was the master of this palace. As soon as Yang Tian walked in, he welcomed him warmly and led Yang Tian to the left side of the main seat. Next, Hao Tian loudly introduced Yang Tian and the little blue dragon to the elders of the various clans. After Hao Tian finished, Yang Tian stood up and said with a smile, "Thank you for your warm hospitality, Elder Hao Tian, and thank you for coming." After a brief sentence, Yang Tian sat down. Actually, there was nothing much to say. As soon as Yang Tian walked in, he saw that the elders of the Dragon Clan didn't look too good. After Yang Tian sat down, the music started again. Dozens of beautiful women in red muslin dresses walked over lightly and danced to the music. Yang Tian felt that the atmosphere was a little off, so he naturally wasn't in the mood to enjoy the song and dance. From time to time, he raised his head to look at the elders of the Dragon Clan on both sides. Other than a few elders of the Dragon Clan who were whispering with smiles on their faces, most of the elders of the Dragon Clan seemed absent-minded. The little blue dragon had already jumped onto the table in front of Yang Tian. It was like a little squirrel holding an unknown fruit and gnawing on it. There was actually wine in the Dragon Clan. As soon as Yang Tian sat down, he smelled the scent of wine. This was not wine produced outside, but it was actually produced by the Dragon Clan. It seemed to be brewed with fruits and had a very strong, fruity fragrance. Yang Tian picked up the trumpet-shaped crystal wine cup and drank a mouthful of pale yellow wine. The taste was not bad. It was actually good wine that had been stored in the cellar for many years. The little blue dragon didn't know what politeness was at all. It stuck its head into the cup prepared for it and drank the wine in one gulp. It threw away the fruit pit in its hands and picked up a blue fruit that was bigger than a date and started to gnaw on it. A maid standing at the side immediately filled the little blue dragon's cup with wine. Although Long Hao at the side pretended to be admiring the dance, in fact, he glanced at Yang Tian from time to time. Moreover, his gaze was always on the little blue dragon. The wine of the Dragon Clan was indeed different. Not only was it delicious, but it was also very strong. Very soon, the elders in the hall were all drunk. When they were half drunk, they all let go. Some of the Dragon Clan elders didn't care about their image and pulled the beautiful maids into their arms to tease them. The voices in the hall also became louder. Buzz, buzz, buzz like the sound of bees. The image of these Dragon Clan elders in Yang Tian's eyes fell by 1,000 feet. Perhaps, to the Dragon Clan here, it was always like this. In this sealed star field, the Dragon Clan had no enemies and could freely enjoy themselves. In the eyes of the humans on Earth, life seemed to be extremely decadent. Halfway through the banquet, a beautiful woman suddenly walked in, surrounded by a group of maids. As soon as she appeared, The hall immediately quieted down. Then, this beautiful woman squatted down, and her maid set up a strange musical instrument for her. This musical instrument was very similar to a zither. It actually had 99 strings and was 10 meters long. It was made up of 3 parts. Between the beautiful woman's nimble fingers, a beautiful zither sound rang out. When he saw the young woman's face, Yang Tian couldn't help but be stunned. The little blue dragon, who was holding a fruit, was already stunned. Wasn't this young woman the beautiful dragon girl that Yang Tian and the little blue dragon saw last night? After Yang Tian reacted, he stood up and walked to Long Hao. He squatted beside Long Hao and asked curiously, "Elder Long Hao, who is she?" Long Hao smiled and said, "She is the most beautiful woman in my Golden Dragon clan. Her name is Yujio." After Long Hao finished speaking, he smiled and said, "Yang Tian, you like her?" Yang Tian smiled and shook his head. He pointed at the wooden little blue dragon and said with a smile, "It's Xiao Long who likes her." Long Hao smiled and said, "If Xiao Long can conquer her, I have no objections." After Yujio finished playing the musical instrument, she stood up. When she was about to leave, the little blue dragon suddenly jumped up and turned into a huge dragon in the sky and rushed towards Yujio. Yujio couldn't react in time. After the little blue dragon grabbed her, they flew out of the hall. The little blue dragon was very fast. He rushed out in an instant without saying anything to Yang Tian. When Yang Tian and the dragon elders rushed out of the hall, they saw 2 golden dragons flying in the sky several thousand meters above the ground. Yujio had already turned back into a dragon. She was the same size as the little blue dragon. The 2 dragons fought for a while in the faint rainbow clouds. Not long after, the golden dragon that Yujio transformed into started to run away. She even let out a roar of dissatisfaction. However, the little blue dragon chased after her without letting go. Just like that, they chased each other in the sky. Time passed minute by minute until the stars fell into the horizon. Finally, the little blue dragon and Yujio were entangled. Thick clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. Soon, it started to rain heavily. During this process, Yang Tian felt a strong life aura coming from the sky. What are they doing? Yang Tian couldn't help but ask Long Hao, who was standing beside him. Long Hao smiled and said, "They are creating Xiao Long." Yang Tian was stunned. He immediately reacted and opened his eyes wide. Wasn't this development too fast? When did Xiao Long's guts become so big? Last night, he was still very slow. Yang Tian now knew why the ancients described the matters between men and women as making love. Although the dragon race was different from humans and did things very directly, Yang Tian calmly thought about it and felt that something was wrong. What exactly was the problem? Yang Tian frowned as he looked at the little blue dragon and Yujio in the sky. However, his mind was constantly thinking. Dragons and humans were different. They were very powerful and could do that for a very long time. The stars fell into the horizon and night came. Then, the stars rose again. When the clouds started to thin and the rain stopped, Yang Tian saw that the little blue dragon and Yujio had already separated. Yujio let out a low howl in the sky. She dived into a building in the distance and disappeared. The little blue dragon turned back into a mini dragon and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. After returning, the little blue dragon's expression was very dispirited. When Yang Tian saw the little blue dragon's appearance, he couldn't help but laugh and say, "Xiao Long, although it feels good, you have to control yourself." As soon as Yang Tian's voice fell, the little blue dragon lay down and closed its eyes. Soon it fell asleep. Chapter 614. Yang Tian brought the little blue dragon back to the palace that Long Hao had arranged for him and the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon's current state made Yang Tian very worried. Is this what happens after a dragon mates? If that was the case, it would be really tiring. Yang Tian thought to himself. After resting for most of the day, the little blue dragon finally woke up, but it still looked listless. Yang Tian immediately took out a super warrior level beast core from his storage bracelet and stuffed it into the little blue dragon's mouth. After a while, the little blue dragon, who had digested the energy of the beast core, looked a little stronger, but it still looked dispirited. This was the first time Yang Tian saw the little blue dragon so weak. Xiaolong, what's going on? Yang Tian finally felt that something was wrong, because since returning, the little blue dragon had not spoken to him. When Yang Tian asked this, the little blue dragon finally growled a few times in a low voice. It told Yang Tian that there was a strange drug in the wine that it drank that could arouse its desire. After a round of cloud feather, it lost a large amount of blood essence. This was not a normal thing. Under the effect of the drug, it lost control, and the other party also demanded without restraint. When the little blue dragon said this, Yang Tian could not help but laugh. He thought that even if it was a dragon, if it went overboard with this kind of thing, it would still be the same as a human. At this time, Yang Tian did not suspect anything else. But soon, hundreds of powerful auras appeared outside. Yang Tian could not be more familiar with these auras. Those who came must be the elders of the various dragon clans who had participated in the banquet before. The smile on Yang Tian's face froze at once, and a warning sign appeared in his heart. The elders of the dragon clan outside surrounded this small palace. They definitely did not come to greet the little blue dragon, right? Seeing the little blue dragon's current state, Yang Tian immediately understood that the little blue dragon had been plotted against by the dragon clan. Why would the dragon clan do this? Yang Tian quickly thought for a while and suddenly remembered what happened at the bloodline pool that day. After knowing that the little blue dragon was the descendant of the ancestral dragon, Long Hao's attitude towards them changed greatly and became very warm. Plus the appearance of Yu Ju the night before. Everything seemed to have been arranged. Their goal should be to obtain the bloodline of the little blue dragon. When Yang Tian understood it, Long Hao walked in wearing a suit of golden armor and a smile on his face. Behind Long Hao were dozens of other elders from the dragon clan. Among them, the Black Dragon clan was the most numerous. The plan that Long Hao came up with was simply killing two birds with one stone. Not only could they obtain the bloodline of the little blue dragon, but they could also make the little blue dragon lose its ability to fight for a period of time, removing the greatest threat to them. The remaining Yang Tian was only a human at the Great Star God realm. He was far from being a match for them. This was only Long Hao's judgment of ordinary human cultivators. They did not know that Yang Tian's current fighting strength was not much different from the little blue dragon's. Seeing Long Hao and the group of people from the dragon clan walk over, Yang Tian placed the little blue dragon on the carpet and took out a blue armor from his storage bracelet and put it on. Then, he took out a red long saber. Due to his relationship with the little blue dragon, Yang Tian had a good impression of the dragon clan. But this time he had no choice but to slay a dragon, and a lot of dragons at that. After preparing for battle, Yang Tian placed the little blue dragon on his shoulder and used a tablecloth to wipe the long saber called 15. Looking at the saber in front of him, Yang Tian felt as if it was fate. Someone had once used it to slay a dragon, and this time it was his turn. This saber was spiritual. After sensing Yang Tian's killing intent to slay a dragon, it actually buzzed. Dense runes appeared on the saber's body and disappeared in a flash. It was Yang Tian's first time seeing this saber in such a strange situation. But there was no time to study it now because Long Hao and the group had already arrived in front of him, less than 30 meters away from him. Sensing the sharp killing intent on Yang Tian's saber, Long Hao could not help but frown. He felt that this killing intent did not come from Yang Tian, but from the saber. This was a saber specially made to slay a dragon. A long time ago, when the dragon clan enslaved humans, many powerful cultivators were born among the humans. These talented cultivators, in order to defeat the dragon clan, created many weapons against the dragon clan. The cultivators who had these weapons were known as the true dragon slayers. In the end, the dragon clan was no match and was forced to leave the human world. This was because the dragon clan's reproductive ability was much worse than that of humans. In fact, humans had defeated the dragon clan with numbers. A pair of dragons could only give birth to a young dragon every hundreds or thousands of years, but humans could increase their numbers by thousands of times in a short period of time. After arriving in front of Yang Tian, Long Hao did not speak. But a Black Dragon clan elder behind him stepped forward, pointed at Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, and said with a cold smile, "You guys killed our Black Dragon clan's elder. Don't think about leaving the dragon's starfield alive." Yang Tian ignored this Black Dragon clan elder. He looked at Long Hao and asked, "What did you guys do to Xiaolong? What benefits does doing this have to you guys?" Long Hao smiled and said, "We just want to obtain his bloodline, you know? With his bloodline, the majority of the dragons in our dragon clan can become the descendants of the ancestral dragon. This way, we can go to another world and not stay in this world to wait for death. We've been waiting for this opportunity for many years already." "Xiaolong's bloodline. How did you guys obtain it?" Yang Tian asked again. The moment his voice fell, the Black Dragon clan elder said to Long Hao, "Let's not talk nonsense with him anymore, right?" Long Hao shook his head and said, "It's better to let them know when they die. After all, we have to give them an explanation for taking their things, right?" Then Long Hao said, "It's actually very simple. When the Dragon Clan gives birth to the next generation, we leave a portion of our bloodline in the female dragon's body. Of course, between dragons of different realms, the chances of giving birth to the next generation are very small." After Long Hao finished speaking, Yang Tian finally understood. Under normal circumstances, dragons of the same realm would mate and give birth to the next generation. The damage to the body would be borne by both parents. However, Xiaolong, because Xiaolong's realm was lower than Xiaolong's, the bloodline would be borne by Xiaolong. Xiaolong's bloodline and a portion of his power would form a dragon egg in Yuzhou's stomach. Because this dragon egg was formed by the little blue dragon's bloodline, as long as the dragon egg formed, it would be removed from Yuzhou's stomach and placed in the dragon transformation pool. Then, the elders of the dragon clan could destroy their current physical bodies and form new ones in the dragon transformation pool. The new physical bodies would have the bloodline of the ancestral dragon. Any parent would love their child. When the little blue dragon heard that Long Hao and the others wanted to harm its child, its eyes were filled with rage. If it wasn't for the fact that it was weak, the little blue dragon would have pounced forward and killed all of them. Yang Tian also gritted his teeth. He didn't expect the dragons to be even more ruthless than humans in order to achieve this goal. "What about Yuzhou? Does she know about this?" Yang Tian asked in a deep voice. When Long Hao saw how angry the little blue dragon and Yang Tian were, he didn't mind and said, "Of course, she doesn't know about it. However, we have imprisoned her. After 99 days, we will take it out from her body." Whoosh. Before Long Hao could finish his sentence, Yang Tian could no longer hold it in and slashed at Long Hao. The blade chi that carried Yang Tian's anger let out an ear-piercing screech as it rushed toward Long Hao. Long Hao and the group of dragons behind him had long since been prepared. When Yang Tian moved his blade, they dodged and scattered in all directions. Boom! There was a loud sound as the saber chi from Yang Tian's saber caused the palace to collapse. Chapter 6:15. After a loud explosion, the dragons all turned into giant dragons and coldly looked at Yang Tian, who was rushing out of the countless palace fragments. Roar! Yang Tian was floating in the air. The little blue dragon on his shoulder let out a low roar at the hundreds of giant dragons in front of him. The little blue dragon was not saying this to the dragons, but to Yang Tian. It wanted Yang Tian to kill all of these dragons, because these dragons had already tarnished the dignity of dragons and could not be called dragons. As soon as the little blue dragon's roar fell, a black dragon rushed toward Yang Tian. It opened its mouth, and a black dragon flame swept toward Yang Tian. Yang Tian raised his sword and slashed. A sharp wind blade slashed out and broke through the black flame. Puffed! The black dragon wanted to dodge, but it did not expect the sword aura to suddenly accelerate and fall on its head with a muffled sound. Next, the black dragon lost consciousness. Its huge body fell from the sky and crashed onto the ground with a loud bang. Yang Tian's power contained the force. As long as his force invaded the body, even if it was a dragon, it would immediately die. The force was Yang Tian's most powerful weapon. This kind of force was useless against the little blue dragon, but these dragons could not resist it. Killing a black dragon with a single slash caused the other dragons to be shocked. They suddenly understood that they had underestimated Yang Tian's fighting power. Roar! Suddenly, a golden giant dragon let out a roar. The dragon suddenly spread out and quickly flew around Yang Tian. During this process, the powerful domains released by these dragons joined together and formed a powerful pressure on Yang Tian. Yang Tian, who was suspended in the air, was trapped to the point that he could not move at all. One must know that these dragons were all at the Great Star God realm. Once they joined forces, the power they formed was very terrifying. The space around Yang Tian's body was infinitely compressed. The armor on his body released the strongest rune power and began to make a gurgling sound, as if it would shatter at any time. These dragons wanted to use this method, to use the power of space, to crush Yang Tian. Yang Tian could not move, but he still had his mind power. Powerful mind power instantly rushed out of Yang Tian's force world and formed a powerful defensive barrier around him. At the same time, Yang Tian used his mind power to form an illusion. In the eyes of these dragons, Yang Tian suddenly disappeared. The surroundings became an unfamiliar planet environment, and there was a large volcano not far away. They were surrounded by red rocks, and below them was a magma pool. The air was filled with the smell of sulfur. At the same time, countless green dragons suddenly appeared in the surroundings and rushed over here. This move was very useful. These dragons realized that the situation around them had changed. Countless green dragons of their kind were rushing over, and their formation was messed up. The pressure on Yang Tian lessened, and he took the opportunity to leave the encirclement of the dragon elders. As soon as Yang Tian left, a golden dragon let out an angry roar. In the midst of this roar, Yang Tian's mind power became unstable, and the illusion was broken in an instant. Rip! Yang Tian took advantage of the moment when the dragons were stunned to arrive above a golden dragon and slashed down. Roar! With a muffled sound, the golden dragon that was slashed let out a mournful cry. Its body fell down and smashed onto the ground. The dragons reacted very quickly and once again surrounded Yang Tian. With the lesson just now, Yang Tian quickly swung his sword a few times. Dozens of red sword auras were released, fanning out toward the numerous dragons in front of him. In the face of this red sword aura, the dragons could only dodge to the side. Two of their companions had already been killed by Yang Tian. These dragons were already afraid of the sword in Yang Tian's hand. This sword was too strange. It could easily break through the energy defense of the dragons' bodies. Of course, Yang Tian also noticed this. He suddenly understood that this sword, called 15, was made for the purpose of slaying dragons. It was a dragon-slaying weapon. While the dragons were dodging, Yang Tian rushed out of the encirclement of more than 200 dragons. However, as soon as Yang Tian rushed out of the encirclement, a black dragon appeared in front of him and crashed into him. After being hit by the powerful force, the blue armor on Yang Tian's body emitted a bright blue light and deflected most of the force. The force that could not be deflected brought Yang Tian to the ground. Bang! There was a loud noise. Yang Tian's body landed on the roof of a palace. He smashed through the roof and fell into the palace. The dragons reacted quickly. Without waiting for Yang Tian to rush out of the palace, they surrounded the palace and spat out dragon flames of various colors. The dragon flames, spat out by more than 200 dragons, instantly enveloped the entire palace. Yang Tian, who was in the palace, had just gotten up from the ground and wanted to rush out when the surrounding temperature rapidly increased. In this palace, there were many maids from other races. In front of Yang Tian, the entire palace and the maids' bodies instantly turned black and turned into charcoal. Yang Tian used his spiritual power to form an energy defense outside his body to resist the high temperature. Although these dragon flames were not as powerful as the little blue dragon's dragon flames, the temperature was extremely high. Yang Tian's spiritual power was being consumed at an extremely fast rate. Of course, Yang Tian would not sit still and wait for death. Although he was surrounded by dragon flames, he still waved around dozens of times and slashed out hundreds of red sword auras. These sword auras instantly rushed into the dragon flames. Soon, there was a dragon outside that let out a painful howl. A gap appeared in the dragon flames, and Yang Tian took the opportunity to rush out. During this series of battles, the little blue dragon lying on Yang Tian's shoulder kept its eyes open, and its spirit was getting better and better. The little blue dragon knew that it was impossible for Yang Tian to defeat these hundreds of great star gods of its kind. It began to burn its dragon balls to obtain power. In this way, after this, the little blue dragon would drop in level. Yang Tian was so focused on the battle that he did not notice the changes in the little blue dragon's body at all. After Yang Tian rushed out of the dragon flames, a black dragon once again appeared in front of him as if it had teleported. This black dragon was carrying a rune treasure. The black dragon that was killed by the little blue dragon before relied on this rune treasure to injure the little blue dragon. After having learned his lesson once, Yang Tian was already prepared. After rushing out of the dragon flames, he dodged to the side and casually slashed out a few times. This was Yang Tian's defensive move. He was not sure if the black dragon that crashed in him would appear. However, the black dragon did appear. This black dragon that suddenly appeared did not force Yang Tian back into the dragon flames. It swept past Yang Tian's side and took several sword auras from Yang Tian's slashes. Its body was out of control, and it plunged into the dragon flames that had not yet been extinguished. Roar! After a sorrowful cry, the black dragon's huge body was immediately turned into ashes. Boom! With a loud bang, the black dragon's dragon orb exploded and blew the dragon flames away. Yang Tian seized this opportunity and used his spiritual power to protect his body and once again rushed out of the encirclement of more than 200 dragons. Dragons were dragons after all. Yang Tian had killed 3 of them. Although the remaining dragons were a little afraid, they still persevered. They had not lost the ferocity that a dragon should have. After rushing out of the encirclement of the dragons, Yang Tian felt a wave of fatigue. After a series of battles, Yang Tian had consumed a lot of energy. Although the sword in his hand was sharp and could easily cut through the dragon's energy defense, it consumed a lot of energy. If this continued, even if he was not killed by these dragons, he would die of exhaustion. At this moment, the thought of escaping surfaced in Yang Tian's mind. But this was the dragon starfield. Where could it escape to? At this time, Yang Tian finally noticed that a powerful energy wave was being emitted from the little blue dragon's body. Yang Tian knew what the little blue dragon was going to do and used his spiritual power to tell the little blue dragon, "Xiaolong, you can't do this." However, the little blue dragon did not listen to him. Yang Tian understood that even if the little blue dragon had recovered its strength, they would not be a match for these dragons, even if they worked together. Screech! At this time, the sky darkened and an eagle-like cry could be heard. Yang Tian looked up and saw countless huge green birds in the sky. Chapter 6:16. Seeing so many blue birds suddenly appear, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, as well as the dragon surrounding Yang Tian and the others, were all stunned. What was going on? Each of these giant blue birds had a wingspan of dozens of meters. They had sharp beaks, and their claws were not inferior to dragon claws. More importantly, these blue birds were all at the great star god realm. Since when did so many creatures at the great star god realm appear in this universe? One had to know that in the human world outside, the number of great star god realm powerhouses only increased after the protocells were created. If the dragons here, and the bluebirds that appeared now, or even the other alien beast clans, they could rule the entire universe. Suddenly, among the bluebirds, the little blue dragon's familiar voice rang out. A bluebird that was smaller than the other bluebirds, but its body was emitting a colorful halo, flew over. The little blue dragon was very familiar with this bluebird. From a distance, the little blue dragon saw this blue bird and suddenly felt relieved, stopping the burning of its inner core. These blue birds came, obviously with hostility. Most of the dragons that surrounded Yang Tian and the others flew towards the blue birds, while the remaining dragons still rushed towards Yang Tian. Yang Tian turned around and moved, dodging the claws of a red dragon. With a slash of his blade, he cut open the red dragon's chest. Another blue dragon pounced, opened its mouth, and spat out a blue smoke towards Yang Tian. This blue smoke was extremely corrosive. After it was spat out by the blue dragon, it quickly enveloped Yang Tian. Yang Tian condensed his mental power, forming a defensive energy outside his body. His body moved and broke through the blue smoke. His body was like a bolt of lightning, rushing into the blue dragon's mouth. Then, with a loud bang, the blue dragon's huge head exploded, and Yang Tian rushed out from inside. After killing 2 more dragons, Yang Tian's energy was almost depleted. He immediately landed on the ground. At this time, more than 200 dragons no longer had the energy to attack Yang Tian. Hundreds of blue birds had already flown over and started fighting with the dragons. The most powerful one was, of course, the azure bird that Yang Tian and Little Azure Dragon knew. Although it was small in size, it was extremely fast. Even in the dragon race's domain, it was able to move as fast as lightning. Wherever it passed, the giant dragons would fall and crash onto the ground, losing their ability to fight. This blue bird's realm had far surpassed the realm of the great star god. The other blue birds were also very fierce. There were a lot of them, and they were attacking one dragon in a group of 2 or 3. If it was a one-on-one fight, these bluebirds would not be a match for these dragons. But if they attacked in groups, the dragons would not be able to defeat them. On the ground, Yang Tian raised his head and widened his eyes as he watched everything. The bluebirds and dragons were very large, and their battle was very fierce. The dragons could breathe fire, and the bluebirds could breathe fire as well. They could also control the airflow around their bodies to sweep away the dragon flames. The claws of the dragons were very sharp, and the claws of the bluebirds were not inferior. With a single claw, they could also injure the dragons. Blood dripped from the sky like rain, dyeing the ground red. The air was filled with a thick smell of blood. The feathers that the bluebirds shed were also falling. They were burned by the dragon flames and turned into balls of fire that fell to the ground, setting a large number of buildings on fire. Luckily, in this place, the low-level dragons and the other beasts that were enslaved had already hidden far away. Roar, seeing that it could not defeat the blue birds, a golden dragon suddenly let out a roar. After this roar, a large number of golden dragons flew over from all over the planet. Although these golden dragons were not at the great star god realm, they had the advantage in numbers. Very quickly, they surrounded the blue birds and began to attack them. Not only that, but the dragons that were sleeping on the formation also began to wake up. They then joined the battle in a daze. It wasn't just this planet. Dragons from other planets were also flying over here. In an instant, tens of thousands of dragons appeared in the sky of the Golden Dragon planet. If this continued, the blue birds would not be able to defeat them. Screech, the golden dragons could summon their underlings, and so could the blue birds. Suddenly, it raised its head and let out a cry. After this cry, the winged race from all the planets seemed to have received a signal to rebel. They all transformed into giant birds and gathered here. The winged race began to resist, and the other beasts began to riot as well. They all transformed into giant beasts and began to attack the dragons. These beasts and winged race had been oppressed by the dragons for many years. At this time, they finally realized that the time to rebel had come. As long as they could kill the dragons, this galaxy would be theirs. After resting enough and eating several beast cores, Yang Tian, who had recovered some of his strength, held his sword and joined the battle. The entire galaxy was in chaos. After the sleeping dragons woke up, they left the formation that they were sleeping on. These formation platforms were destroyed by the other beasts and winged race. From her point of view, these formation platforms were the most detestable, because the sleeping dragons also needed to replenish their strength, and the source of their strength was their beast cores. As the formation platforms were destroyed, the dragon's starfield gradually lost its 9 colors. The star in the center gradually dimmed. Just as he killed a silver-white dragon, Yang Tian felt absent-minded. The scene in front of him became unreal. It was not only Yang Tian. At this time, even the little blue dragon's eyes were filled with confusion. This feeling was like a dream, and it was becoming more and more unreal. The bright colors in front of him gradually turned gray. The blue birds and dragons became more and more illusory, and the sounds in his ears became more and more vague. What was going on? Was he poisoned? Yang Tian was shocked. "Wake up!" Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded in Yang Tian's ears. As soon as he heard this voice, Yang Tian's eyes darkened, and his mind became clear. After waking up, the scene in front of Yang Tian had changed greatly. What appeared in his eyes were dilapidated walls and messy weeds. There were no colorful clouds in the sky, but a dull gray color. The dragons were gone, and so were the bluebirds. In the weeds, one could see the skeletons of the dragons. Seeing this, Yang Tian could not help but cry out. Even the little blue dragon's eyes were filled with shock. Now that he thought about it carefully, everything that had happened since he entered the dragon's starfield was like a dream. A sad expression suddenly appeared in the little blue dragon's eyes. So all of this was fake. The dragons were fake. They had died long ago. Ninth Feather was also fake. She did not give birth to his descendants. At this moment, there was a burst of laughter. Yang Tian turned around abruptly and saw a person and a bird standing on top of a large boulder. The man was a masked man in black, and the bird was the blue bird that Yang Tian and the little blue dragon had seen before. The blue bird looked at the little blue dragon with a teasing expression. "Were we dreaming just now?" Yang Tian looked at the masked man in black and asked with a frown. The masked man in black appeared in front of Yang Tian and said with a smile, "It's real, and it's fake." Hearing this, Yang Tian felt a headache coming on. It was like a monk playing a Zen machine. As soon as the masked man in black said real, the little blue dragon's eyes lit up. To him, Ninth Feather was a female dragon that he had fallen in love with. If it was fake, it would be a pity. Seeing that Yang Tian did not understand, the masked man in black said, "No matter if it's dragons or other exotic beasts in this star field, they were all exotic beasts that you humans had killed before. I thought they were pitiful, so I settled them here and sealed them. What a pity." After the masked man in black finished speaking, Yang Tian still did not understand and shook his head. "You're so stupid." The masked man in black said, "I intercepted them from a certain period of time and placed them in this special star field so that they could live well. So they are real. But to you, because they are in a different time, they are fake." GGG. As soon as the masked man in black finished speaking, the little blue dragon began to cry out anxiously. The masked man in black obviously understood what the little blue dragon was saying. He smiled and said, "If you want to find that female dragon, wait until you have enough power." After the masked man in black finished speaking, he turned around and disappeared with the bluebird. A long time after the masked man in black left, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon woke up. The little blue dragon flew into the air and circled a few times. Suddenly, it cried out excitedly. That was because it saw a golden dragon egg not far away. There were still bloodstains on the dragon egg, as if it was just laid by the female dragon. Chapter 617. As soon as it saw the dragon egg, the little blue dragon's eyes widened. It stood up and quickly flew over. This dragon egg was even bigger than the little blue dragon's current size. There was no need to guess. The little blue dragon knew that this dragon egg was its child. It could be sure from the aura emitted by this dragon egg. Yang Tian quickly walked over. When he saw the little blue dragon hugging the dragon egg intimately, Yang Tian understood. The incubation of a dragon egg required special conditions. Looking at the current state of this planet, It was obviously not suitable. Yang Tian thought for a moment and said to the little blue dragon, Xiaolong, put in the superstar divine temple. The little blue dragon hesitated for a moment and nodded. Yang Tian also thought of putting the dragon egg in the Jade Sun clan. However, that kid's temperament was not stable enough. The Jade Sun clan was not a safe place. It would be troublesome if the dragon egg was damaged. He could only put it in the superstar divine temple. In this universe, there was no safer place than the superstar divine temple. The little blue dragon used its 2 claws to carefully pick up the dragon egg and handed it to Yang Tian. Yang Tian squatted down and held the dragon egg in his hands. This dragon egg was bigger than the one the little blue dragon was born from. It was as big as an ostrich egg and heavier. This was because when the little blue dragon's parents gave birth to the little blue dragon, their cultivation realm was not as high as the current little blue dragon. After wiping away the dried blood on the dragon egg, Yang Tian took out a piece of clothing from his storage bracelet and wrapped it tightly to prevent it from being damaged. This dragon egg was alive, so it naturally could not be stored in the storage bracelet. Yang Tian held the dragon egg in one hand and the saber in the other. He and the little blue dragon began to observe the planet. What happened earlier allowed Yang Tian to understand that when one reaches a certain level of strength and can control the power of time, one can do almost anything. For example, taking dead or missing items from another space-time and storing them in a specific space-time. This didn't seem real either. Yang Tian raised his head to look at the sky and suddenly comprehended something related to time. The magnificent palaces that had once been built by the dragon race were now in ruins, covered by weeds. As Yang Tian walked, he could see the skeletons of dragons and other strange beasts. Most of these bones were surrounded by tall weeds. Some of the dragon bones were covered with light red vines, and there were actually red fruits the size of a finger growing on them. Creak, creak. The little blue dragon told Yang Tian that these were the legendary dragon pulse fruits. If ordinary humans ate them, they would be able to strengthen their bodies and get rid of all diseases. This kind of fruit was actually produced by these vines after absorbing the bone marrow of the dragon bones. Although the fruits were good, Yang Tian didn't pick them. To him, these things had no value. However, in the future, he could migrate a large number of humans from Earth here and turn the sealed star field into a paradise for humans from Earth. If possible, he could even restore this star field to its former beauty. After walking out of a patch of grass, a huge broken array platform appeared in front of Yang Tian's eyes. This was the array platform that the dragons used to sleep in. They really did exist, but they were all destroyed. Not a single one was intact. It was because of the destruction of these array platforms that Yang Tian and the little blue dragon returned to normal. Yang Tian felt that if he guessed correctly, he and the little blue dragon had arrived in this star field a long time ago. The reason why this scene had turned out like this was because of their relationship. This was called karma. As for the dragon egg in his arms, it must have been done by the black-clothed masked man. In that case, the female dragon called Yu Jiu must still be alive. With this conjecture, Yang Tian was happy for the little blue dragon. After walking past several array platforms, a huge building wrapped in vines appeared in front of him. What was that? Yang Tian was curious. Although the dragons that lived in this star field didn't exist anymore, they left behind many good things. Yang Tian immediately sped up and arrived in front of this huge building. The little blue dragon, who had recovered most of its energy, transformed into a huge dragon. It spat out a dragon flame and burned the vines that wrapped around this huge building, revealing the original appearance of this building. This was a pyramid-shaped building built with gold, covering an area of several miles. Under the light of the stars, it flickered with a golden light. This was a real pyramid, and the main material was gold. On the surface of this pyramid, there were many lifelike dragons. The scene was that of a dead dragon being resurrected here. Dragon transformation pool. Yang Tian couldn't help but open his eyes wide. There was no entrance at the bottom. It was at the top. Just now, when the little blue dragon used its dragon flame to burn the vines, he saw it from the sky. Yang Tian jumped to the top of the pyramid. The top of the tower was flat, and there was a square entrance. Looking down from above, he could see a golden liquid emitting a halo. The square entrance at the top was 5 meters long and wide. Yang Tian entered through the entrance and landed in the tower. He floated in the air and looked down. After entering, Yang Tian discovered that this tower surrounded a circular 3-legged cauldron. It was more than 10 meters tall, and in the cauldron was the golden liquid he saw outside. This golden liquid should be the key to the dragon's resurrection. The cauldron was engraved with runes that lit up from time to time. At this time, the strange program told Yang Tian that these were all life runes. Yang Tian smiled and landed under the cauldron. He hugged one of the cauldron's legs and used a huge amount of strength to lift the cauldron. With a rumbling sound, the cauldron's legs that had sunk into the rock finally left the ground. The entire cauldron was lifted in the air by Yang Tian. The little blue dragon had already shrunk and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. Yang Tian's face was not red, and he was not out of breath. He smiled at the little blue dragon and said, "This is a good thing. Let's take it away. If you encounter danger in the future and your body is destroyed, this will be a lifesaver." The little blue dragon nodded. Then, Yang Tian put the cauldron into his storage bracelet. After putting away the cauldron, Yang Tian came out of the pyramid and carefully examined the diagram on the tower again. The diagram on the top actually described how the dragon was resurrected. Yang Tian had to remember this process clearly. Then, Yang Tian searched the entire Golden Dragon Star. On the entire Golden Dragon Star, there was only one intact dragon transformation pond. The others had all been destroyed. Not only the tower, but even the cauldron inside no longer existed. When Yang Tian was about to leave, the little blue dragon seemed to have discovered something. It left Yang Tian's shoulder and rushed toward the stone belt in front. Yang Tian immediately followed. After arriving at this place, the little blue dragon transformed into a huge dragon. It swooped down and began to toss up with its claws. More than 10 minutes later, a hole covered by stones appeared. The hole was circular and had a diameter of 30 meters, like a well. On the blue stone at the edge of the hole, runes were carved one after another. Even now, these runes were still functioning. Yang Tian glanced at these runes. The strange program told him that these were spatial runes. After this hole was dug out by the little blue dragon opened its eyes wide and looked around. It wanted to enter, but it was blocked by an invisible force. "What's inside?" Yang Tian circled around the hole and asked curiously. The little blue dragon told Yang Tian that this was a dragon tomb. The bodies of dead dragons would be placed inside to prevent their bodies from rotting. So it was a dragon tomb. Yang Tian didn't want to pull out the tomb of the dragon race. He smiled and said, "Xiaolong, let's leave." The little blue dragon shook its head and said, "There are many dragon balls inside." Yang Tian opened his eyes wide and said, "Xiaolong, that's not good, right?" Chapter 618. The little blue dragon's intention was to go to the dragon necropolis and take away the dragon balls left behind by the dead dragons. Those that could be buried in the dragon necropolis were definitely dragons of very high status and realm. The dragon balls they left behind contained powerful energy. Perhaps they could even find the dragon balls left behind by the great star god realm dragons. Dragon balls were also a type of inner core that could be made into high-level beast cores. Seeing Yang Tian's surprised look, the little blue dragon said to Yang Tian, he hated the dragons in this star field. Moreover, after these dragons died, there was nothing left. Leaving the dragon balls here was tantamount to a waste. The little blue dragon actually wanted to uproot someone's grave. It could be seen how much he hated the dragons in this star field. This was not strange. Longhao's group of dragons actually wanted to harm the little blue dragon's children. If it was Yang Tian, he would have to crush their bones and scatter their ashes in order to vent the hatred in his heart. Since the little blue dragon said so, Yang Tian did not have any objections. With the help of the strange program, Yang Tian quickly cracked the talisman array at the entrance. Together with the little blue dragon, they descended from the entrance and entered the dragon necropolis. From the entrance to the bottom, it was about a few hundred meters at an inclination of about 60 degrees. After landing, in front of Yang Tian and the others was a cave with a diameter of 50 meters and very smooth walls. The surface of the cave was probably polished smooth by the dragon's body. The dragons that were about to die would crawl in by themselves and then find a satisfactory place below. They would then close their eyes and bid farewell to this world completely. Every so often, there would be a deep pit in the wall. Inside the pit were glowing crystals. With these glowing crystals, the light in the cave was very bright. Dragons were creatures that liked light. Naturally, they would place bright light sources in places where they died. While walking through the wide tunnel, Yang Tian suddenly caught a whiff of a strange fragrance. Immediately, he felt his head go numb. He felt very tired and wanted to fall to the ground and sleep. There was actually poison here. The poison was extremely potent, and its main effect was to paralyze the body, making creatures feel extremely tired. Once they fell asleep, they would never wake up again. This was a very unique poison. It could kill the intruders and also make the old dragons who entered here die more comfortably. One had to know that death was actually very painful. Fortunately, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon had force in their bodies, and they quickly removed the poison that invaded their bodies. In just a moment, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon woke up. To prevent such a thing from happening again, Yang Tian used his mental power to form an energy shield around his body. This way, the poison outside would not be able to invade his and the little blue dragon's bodies. There weren't any traps in the cave. Yang Tian quickened his pace, and after a few minutes, he finally reached the end of the cave after several thousand meters. This was a vast underground space with no end in sight. It was like another world. This huge underground space was not excavated. It was naturally formed. The ceiling and the bottom of the cave were full of sharp stones. These stones could actually emit light, releasing a faint blue light. The air was warm and foggy. Coupled with the incomparable silence, it gave Yang Tian a feeling as if he had come to a ghost realm. In this vast space, there were complete dragon-shaped skeletons everywhere. Upon seeing these skeletons, the little blue dragon's eyes revealed a solemn expression. Yang Tian was the same. According to common sense, after a powerful dragon entered here and inhaled the poison gas, its body should not have decomposed after death. How did it become bones? Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, who sensed that something was wrong, immediately became vigilant. Yang Tian gripped his saber tightly and slowly walked forward. The surroundings were very quiet. Yang Tian could only hear his light footsteps as he walked. While walking, Yang Tian kept glancing at the dragon bones around him. Many of these dragon bones were different in color. Some were black, some were silver-white, and some were golden. Although countless years had passed, each dragon bone was still as hard as metal. Yang Tian stopped beside a silver-white, dragon-shaped skeleton. The skeleton was very large. When it was alive, the diameter of this dragon's waist was about 10 meters. In order to see if this bone was very hard, Yang Tian slashed at a rib. This rib was thicker than Yang Tian's thigh. Crack! What Yang Tian did not expect was that this dragon bone was not hard. Yang Tian's slash was not very strong, but it was actually broken. No, it should not be said that it was broken, but smashed. Then, something that shocked Yang Tian happened. After the dragon bone was broken, a large number of blue insects gushed out from the fracture of the bone. Each of these insects was the size of a finger and shaped like a beetle. As soon as they gushed out of the dragon bone, they flapped their wings, and blue flames ignited on their bodies as they pounced toward Yang Tian. Yang Tian did not dodge. These insects hit his spiritual energy shield as if they had hit a balloon and were quickly bounced back. Countless insects flapped their wings as if a barrel of gunpowder had been ignited. All the insects in the entire cave gushed out of the dragon bones. They were so densely packed that they covered the sky and the earth. Xiaolong, what kind of insects are these? There are so many of them. Yang Tian asked as he moved quickly avoiding the attacks of the insects. The little blue dragon, who was lying on Yang Tian's shoulder, thought for a moment and told Yang Tian that these insects were called nether-nethers. They survive by eating the bones of exotic beasts. If there was a shortage of food, they would sleep in the bones of exotic beasts. Even the slightest sound could wake them up. After the little blue dragon finished speaking, Yang Tian felt that this trip was in vain. These insects had eaten the bones of the dragon, so of course, they would also devour the dragon pearl. Yang Tian, who was extremely depressed, burst out with powerful spiritual energy, forming a violent airflow in the cave, rolling up countless insects and slamming them against the cave wall. Dense pa-pa sounds rang out. The nether-nethers that were rolled up by the airflow hit the cave wall, and their bodies immediately shattered. This kind of insect's resistance to attacks wasn't very strong. After the nether-nethers' bodies shattered, they turned into a mass of blue flames. Their entire bodies began to burn. Countless nether-nethers' bodies began to burn, forming large masses of blue flames at the bottom of the cave wall. The temperature of these blue flames was very high. Soon, the temperature of this underground space rose by dozens of degrees, and the fog began to dissipate. Buzz, just as Yang Tian was slaughtering these insects, suddenly, there was a dull sound that was louder than thunder. Before this sound disappeared, the bodies of the nether-nethers that were still alive in the entire space suddenly exploded and turned into a large mass of flames. Boom! There was another loud noise. Countless insects, like gunpowder particles, burned at the same time, causing the gas in the entire underground space to expand violently, and a violent explosion occurred. Yang Tian, who was in this explosive environment, was fine, but his body was out of control. He was spinning with the airflow and rushed toward the entrance. However, the entrance was too small for this huge space. The top of the entire cave suddenly rose and rushed upward. If one was outside at this time, they would see that the ground within a radius of hundreds of miles trembled. It first rose and then sank. Because Yang Tian was close to the entrance, he rushed out of the ground from the passage he came from with the fast-flowing airflow. It was not until he was thousands of meters in the air that he controlled his body. At this time, looking down from above, one could see that the ground within hundreds of miles had collapsed, forming a huge, irregular deep pit. This pit was hundreds of meters deep. If it rained, it would definitely form a huge lake. Seeing this situation, Yang Tian let out a long breath. He did not expect that those strange insects would use this trick. Yang Tian was just about to land when the ground below suddenly shook. Then there was a loud bang, and a huge nether-nether broke out of the ground. This was another giant creature. In terms of size, only the devouring insect that Yang Tian killed could compare with it. Chapter 619. This was a great star god-level insect. After charging out from the ground, this giant insect twisted its huge head and looked around. After discovering Yang Tian, it spread open a pair of hard wings on its back. Buzz, 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 buzz. Once its wings started to vibrate, a dull sound could be heard. This was a type of offensive sound wave. The hard rocks around it were all shaken to the point that they turned into powder. The air currents stirred up by its wings caused a cloud of dust to appear. Thousands of meters away, the defense that Yang Tian had constructed using his mental power was rapidly being shaken by this sound wave. In a few breaths' time, this giant insect was covered by sand and dust. When the giant insect's body was completely covered by sand and dust, the energy waves it was emitting suddenly disappeared. This big guy actually escaped. After losing the giant insect's aura, Yang Tian could not help but be taken aback. He had thought that there would be a huge battle coming up. He did not expect that the giant insect would actually escape. Why did this big guy not have any ferocity at all? This giant insect could not be blamed. Although it grew up eating dragon corpses, it was instinctively afraid of living dragons. In addition, the aura emitted by Yang Tian was not the slightest bit weaker than it was. Although it was just an insect, it was still very smart after reaching the great star god level. If other cultivators were to encounter this situation, this insect would definitely succeed in escaping. However, it encountered Yang Tian, ahead left tens of thousands of kilometers. At this moment, the strange program reminded Yang Tian that there were spatial energy waves there. Yang Tian laughed and suddenly disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already outside the Golden Dragon Star's atmosphere. The giant insect that wanted to escape had appeared here a few seconds before he arrived. However, just as Yang Tian appeared, the giant insect suddenly disappeared again. 15 degrees to the right, 30,000 kilometers, the strange program reminded Yang Tian again. The strange program's way of reminding Yang Tian was not only to sound in his mind, but also to map out the position of the giant insect. Yang Tian did not need to calculate the distance at all. All he needed to do was appear at the point marked by the strange program. This time, Yang Tian was 2 seconds ahead of time and almost brushed past the giant worm. 50,000 kilometers behind you. The strange program reminded him again. This time, Yang Tian's speed was even faster. When the giant worm appeared, before it could disappear, Yang Tian appeared on top of its head. Puffed! Yang Tian held the saber with both hands and stabbed it into the giant worm's head. At the same time, a powerful origin power flowed along the blade and entered the giant worm's body. CSI, the giant insect screamed miserably as the origin power entered its body. From its voice, one could tell that it was in great pain. Boom! Suddenly, blue flames rose from the giant worm's body, enveloping itself and Yang Tian. Yang Tian smiled coldly. With the protection of his spirit power, this kind of flame could not hurt him at all. Seeing that it could not chase Yang Tian away from its head, the giant worm spread its wings again and began to vibrate. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Only when he was so close did Yang Tian realize how powerful this sound was. The sound waves shook his spirit power shield until it became thinner and thinner. The speed at which it was being depleted could not keep up with the speed at which it was being replenished. Yang Tian had no choice but to pull out his saber and dodge far away. The giant worm took this opportunity and disappeared again. Of course, Yang Tian would not let it go. With the strange program's reminder, he once again flashed to where the giant worm had appeared. Seeing Yang Tian appear again, the giant worm did not move at all. It even hugged its head with its 2 front limbs, as if waiting for a beating. Yang Tian was puzzled and could not help but cry out in surprise. Originally, Yang Tian wanted to kill the giant worm, but he did not expect it to be in such a pitiful state. Yang Tian did not know how to do it. Yang Tian stood in the middle of the giant worm's head and clenched the saber in his hand, hesitating. Roar! At this moment, the little blue dragon opened its mouth and let out a low howl. The little blue dragon was declaring war on the giant worm. The little blue dragon's response was a series of hissing sounds. This guy could actually understand the dragon language. The little blue dragon also became interested and began to communicate with it. Yang Tian could not help but laugh, finding it very interesting. Under the little blue dragon's threat, a storage bag in the giant worm's abdomen suddenly opened and spat out many oval-shaped, black things. These things were Dragon Balls, the Dragon Balls collected by the giant worm. In order to not be killed by Yang Tian and the others, the clever giant worm chose to compromise and handed over the good things. Yang Tian flashed under the giant worm's abdomen and directly put hundreds of these Dragon Balls into his storage bracelet. The curious Yang Tian kept one. After returning to the top of the giant worm's head, Yang Tian peeled off the black shell of the Dragon Ball, and a bright light shone out from inside. This Dragon Ball was the size of an ostrich egg. The shell was wrapped by the giant worm's special feces so that the energy of the Dragon Ball would not be lost. The giant worm's abdomen was originally bulging, but after handing over these Dragon Balls, its storage bag deflated. Yang Tian knew that this guy definitely did not hand over all the Dragon Balls and still kept some. The little blue dragon naturally understood this and threatened the giant worm again. The giant worm had no choice but to spit out everything in its storage bag. When he came to the bottom of the giant worm's abdomen to take a look, Yang Tian knew that this giant worm did not have many things hidden. There were only dozens of Dragon Balls wrapped in feces and some other miscellaneous things. Among them, there was a bronze scroll that caught Yang Tian's attention. Yang Tian immediately went forward and grabbed it in his hand. This scroll was about 1 meter long and as thick as an adult's arm. The words engraved on it were neither runes nor the universal language of this universe. Curious, Yang Tian pulled the scroll. With a C sound, the picture inside automatically popped out. It was actually dozens of meters long. Not only was there a picture on it, there were also densely packed words and descriptions. The words and pictures were light blue. Yang Tian did not recognize the words on it, but from the picture, Yang Tian could determine that this was a scroll of cultivation methods and battle skills, which was what the humans on Earth called a martial arts secret book. After looking at it carefully, Yang Tian's brain was a little confused. He kept feeling that something was going to pop out from his brain. If that thing appeared, he would be able to read these words and understand these pictures. The thing that wanted to pop out was He Luoyang's memory. However, Yang Tian's memory of this was already very blurry. After trying for a long time, Yang Tian still did not succeed. He had no choice but to give up. Although He Luoyang's memory did not appear and let Yang Tian understand these words, it let Yang Tian understand that this scroll was something from another world and was very precious. Otherwise, at this time, He Luoyang's memory would not suddenly want to appear. As time passed, the memory of He Luoyang that existed in Yang Tian's mind became more and more blurry. Soon, it would completely disappear. This was actually a protective measure for Yang Tian's brain. Imagine a situation where there was another person's memory in a person's mind. What kind of situation would occur? That person's memory would probably be in a mess, and he would not be able to distinguish who he was. He might even have a split personality. Shaking his head, Yang Tian pressed a button on the scroll and retracted the words and drawings that were extended out. Intuition told Yang Tian that this thing was definitely very precious. After keeping the scroll in his storage bracelet, Yang Tian returned to the giant worm's head and said to the little blue dragon, "Xiao Long, let it go." Yang Tian's character was like this. He could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. Since this giant worm was so obedient and he had obtained huge benefits from it, Yang Tian planned to let this giant worm go. Chapter 620. It would be too much to kill someone after receiving benefits from them. Of course, Yang Tian wasn't such a person. It was useless to keep this giant insect by his side, and it would be a huge problem for humans if he brought it to the outside world. So after thinking about it, Yang Tian finally decided to let this giant insect go. He would let it live in the star zone. With this guy's temperament, it probably wouldn't provoke humans. It was the first time Yang Tian had seen such a strange insect. It was very smart. The little blue dragon conveyed Yang Tian's message to the giant insect. The giant insect made a few hissing sounds to show that it understood. Then the storage bag under the giant insect's belly sucked and took back the things that Yang Tian left for it. Then it flapped its wings, and the space around it fluctuated, and a spatial entrance appeared. The giant insect fled into the spatial tunnel, fearing that Yang Tian and the little blue dragon would go back on their words. Then Yang Tian and the little blue dragon searched the other 8 planets, but they found nothing. Although the little blue dragon didn't find his parents in the dragon starfield, at least he knew where they went. Also, he had a child. Yang Tian had a great harvest. He had obtained hundreds of Dragon Balls and a strange scroll. Although the energy contained in these Dragon Balls had dissipated a lot, it wouldn't be a problem to make beast cores of the Star-Lord level. Screech, when Yang Tian released the Black Dragon spaceship from his storage bracelet and was about to leave, a bird's cry came from afar. The masked man in black flew over on a green bird. The appearance of the masked man in black was a bit strange. Just like last time, he couldn't defeat Qin Fei, so he turned around and left. Everyone was puzzled. The masked man in black came to Yang Tian and asked with a smile, "Did you get the thing?" "Thing? What thing?" Yang Tian was stunned, but soon he realized what was going on. What the masked man in black was definitely not the Dragon Balls, but the strange scroll. Yang Tian chuckled and nodded. The masked man in black said, "It's your fortune to be able to obtain this item. If you hadn't obtained it, this old man wouldn't be here now." After the black-clothed man finished speaking, Yang Tian took out the scroll from his storage bracelet and asked, "Are the combat skills and cultivation methods recorded here?" The black-clothed masked man chuckled. "You're asking the obvious. You'll understand when you get there." Then, "Senior, you came here just to tell me this?" After Yang Tian put away the scroll, he asked with a smile. The masked man in black said, "I'm here to remind you that the way of cultivation in that world is completely different from this universe. In this world of the universe, one only needed a little bit of comprehension ability and enough energy to constantly improve their realm. And in that world, although the energy to improve one's realm is equally important, the ability to comprehend is the most important. You may not know, but there are many powerhouses who came out from here. They were awesome in this universe and were called geniuses, but after arriving in that world, they became the most mediocre people. This old man watched you grow up. Although I didn't give you much help, I don't want you to become that kind of person. This old man told you that after arriving there, you should at least be mentally prepared and be prepared to suffer for a long time." After the masked man in black finished speaking, Yang Tian nodded with a serious face. "Okay, that's it." After the masked man in black finished speaking, the blue bird under his feet let out a cry. After greeting the little blue dragon, it turned around and flew away with the masked man in black. Yang Tian wanted to ask what the masked man in black was called, but in the end, he held back. He knew that when the time came, he would naturally find out. The strange program had already calculated the entrance and exit. Yang Tian entered the coordinates of the entrance and exit into the database of the Black Dragon ship. Following the route, the Black Dragon ship smoothly flew out of the Dragonstar field. After leaving the Dragonstar field, Yang Tian took out Bell from his storage bracelet. After flying for a few days according to the route, Bell connected to the Universe Network and reported the current time. What made Yang Tian surprised was that it had only been a few days since he arrived at the Dragonstar field. In other words, the period of time in the Dragonstar field was just a short moment to the outside world. Yang Tian couldn't help but sigh. The power of time was really a mysterious energy. It would be great if he could have this kind of power himself. That would definitely be very interesting. For example, he could create a small world, put some creatures in, and see how they evolve. Thinking of this, Yang Tian couldn't help but be shocked. He thought to himself, this universe wouldn't be a world like this, right? Because he had already traveled the route once. The return journey was half as long. In about 10 days, Yang Tian returned to the Superstar Divinity Temple. Yang Tian was now the great priest of the Superstar Divinity Temple, and it was a great priest with a very high status. He could enter and leave the Superstar Divinity Temple at will. After arriving at the newly renovated Superstar Divinity Temple, Yang Tian went straight to the Goddess Temple. Seeing Yang Tian arrive, Su Fengron was especially happy and sent the white-robed maids away. The white-robed maid, Larry, looked at Yang Tian with a strange expression. She didn't understand why the two goddesses loved Yang Tian so much. Seeing how happy the Divine Lady was, Larry turned around with a gloomy expression. There was once a man who promised her that he would take her away from the temple, but so much time had passed, and there was no news at all. Seeing how happy Su Fengron was, Yang Tian smiled and patted Su Fengron's head. Su Fengron also liked Yang Tian's doting actions, although she knew that Yang Tian mostly treated her as a sister. What is this? When Su Fengron saw a small half of the dragon egg wrapped in clothes in Yang Tian's arms, she couldn't help but open her eyes wide and asked curiously. Yang Tian smiled and said, "This is a dragon egg. It is the child of the little blue dragon. You have to take good care of it in the future." After Yang Tian finished speaking, the little blue dragon stared at Su Fengron. Su Fengron was stunned at first, then nodded. She carefully took the dragon egg from Yang Tian's hands and looked at it in front of her eyes. "How can I hatch it?" Su Fongrong asked with a smile after observing the dragon egg for a while. On the way back, the little blue dragon had already told Yang Tian about this matter many times. At this time, when Su Fongrong asked, Yang Tian casually answered, "Put it in a warm place and let it be exposed to a thunderstorm once a year. This is because when it thunders, the rainwater will have lightning attributes. But be careful, don't let the lightning strike it directly. Also, bask in the sun more." After Yang Tian finished speaking, he asked, "Do you remember all these?" Su Fongrong nodded. "I remember, don't worry. I will take good care of it." Yang Tian saw the look of distrust in the little blue dragon's eyes and asked Su Fongrong to take notes. Only then did the little blue dragon relax. After explaining the matter of the dragon egg, the little blue dragon hugged the dragon egg and rubbed its face against the dragon egg again and again. It was very reluctant to part with the dragon egg. If it wasn't for the fact that it had to follow Yang Tian and look for its parents, it would definitely stay. No parents were willing to leave their children behind. At this time, the little blue dragon also understood that its parents must have had their own difficulties when they left it behind. The trace of resentment towards its parents that existed in the bottom of the little blue dragon's heart also dissipated. After the little blue dragon returned to Yang Tian's shoulder, Yang Tian turned around and was about to leave. This time, he would go out for a very long time, or perhaps he would never return to the Superstar Divinity Temple. Wait a minute. As soon as Yang Tian walked to the entrance of the Goddess Palace, Su Fongrong shouted. Yang Tian couldn't help but stop and turn around. He saw Su Fongrong say with a smile, "I will always wait for you." When she said this, Su Fongrong's eyes were full of determination. Yang Tian turned around resolutely and walked out of the Goddess Palace's entrance. As he walked, he said, "If I can come back alive." Hearing Yang Tian's promise, Su Fongrong's tears flowed out. Yang Tian's figure became more and more blurred in her eyes. Chapter 6:21. As soon as he walked out of the range of the Goddess Palace, he was suddenly surrounded by many great priests. Yang Tian knew most of these great priests. For example, Great Priest Kaya, Great Priest Haiyu, Great Priest Mei Chun. Yang Tian's eyes widened when he saw so many great priests. He found it a little strange. Although he had the title of Great Priest in the Superstar Divine Temple, Yang Tian didn't manage the affairs of the Superstar Divine Temple. In fact, if he wanted to, he could become a role like Great Priest Empty God and exercise a dictatorship over the Superstar Divine Temple. If Qin Fei was the goddess now, Yang Tian would consider this problem. After all, it would be easier for him to enter and leave the Superstar Divine Temple if he had more authority. However, Yang Tian didn't have any interest in staying in the Superstar Divine Temple now, even though he had great authority. "You all?" Yang Tian asked with wide eyes. The faces of the high priests were filled with smiles. Yang Tian, "It's like this." Great Priest Haiyu, who was most familiar with Yang Tian, spoke first. "We old fellows want to leave with you. So that's how it is." "No way," Yang Tian said in surprise. "If you all leave, who will manage the Superstar Divine Temple?" When Yang Tian said this, the great priests all laughed. Great Priest Kaya said with a smile, "I'm right, aren't I? Yang Tian can take us with him." The great priests nodded. These great priests were also very curious about this world outside the universe. Now that the Superstar Divine Temple had stabilized and the great priests had regained their strength, their minds couldn't help but become lively. Yang Tian naturally understood how these great priests felt. However, after thinking about it, he still shook his head. "I'm afraid that won't do." When Yang Tian's words fell, the smiles on the great priests' faces froze. This was too embarrassing for them. The great priests were all extremely proud people. When they saw Yang Tian refuse so easily, they felt embarrassed. Great Priest Kaya immediately turned around and flung his sleeves, wanting to leave. The other great priests didn't look too good either. "Wait, I haven't finished yet." Yang Tian did it on purpose just now. He wanted to make a joke with these high priests. However, these high priests were not amused at all, and they immediately became angry. "What else do you have to say?" High Priest Kaya turned around and looked at Yang Tian, speaking in a somewhat angry tone. Yang Tian smiled and said, "Actually, you guys can still leave if you don't follow me. As long as you promise me one thing." "What conditions?" A high priest that Yang Tian didn't recognize immediately asked. Yang Tian said 10 years. You can leave after 10 years. To these high priests, let alone 10 years, they could even wait for 100 years. The time Yang Tian was talking about was based on the time on Earth, but the high priests were used to thinking it was 10 years on planet Kytra. In that case, it would be equivalent to nearly 20 years on Earth. "Why?" High Priest Machen asked. Yang Tian said, "Actually, you guys should understand that leaving the Superstar God Temple now isn't the right time. It's just that you guys are anxious now that you have the chance, afraid that you won't have the chance in the future." Hearing Yang Tian's words, the high priests all nodded. Yang Tian continued, "To leave this universe, you need a mighty sky warship, as long as you agree to this condition. After 10 years, someone will give you one or a few mighty sky warships. At that time, not only you guys, but even other cultivators can leave at any time. Of course, they have to pay a price in exchange for the mighty sky warship." This was a very profitable business. It was equivalent to those great star god realm experts in the future. Even if they took out all their wealth, they would be willing to exchange for a mighty sky warship that could leave here. At that time, the Azure Dragon clan would definitely surpass the Universe Bank and become the richest and most powerful clan in the universe. The reason why Yang Tian let these high priests stay was naturally not for the sake of the Superstar God Temple, but for the sake of the humans on Earth. Without the protection of these high priests, the developing humans on Earth would probably be exterminated by those great star god clans very quickly. After 10 years, when the humans on Earth had matured, it would no longer be a problem. At that time, it would be good enough if the humans on Earth didn't bully other clans. Yang Tian's words calmed these high priests down. In the end, they all agreed to Yang Tian's condition. To them, 10 years was not a long time. Seeing that the high priests had helplessly agreed, Yang Tian couldn't help but laugh. He wondered what kind of expression they would have when he let them get the mighty sky warship in advance after leaving the Superstar God Temple. Yang Tian returned to the clan's fortress and met with his parents. Then, he went to the Death Star Field and met with his grandfather, Qin Jingyang. The Fire Dragon clan established by Qin Jingyang was still having a hard time surviving. However, after everyone united, their days were much better than before. It was worth mentioning that there was a rich star crystal mine under the Crimson Flame planet. It was first discovered by the Fire Dragon clan, formed by Earth's cultivators. When Yang Tian first came to this star crystal mine, he discovered it when he was digging up a goblin. At that time, Yang Tian saw it as a way out. He didn't expect that he didn't need this star crystal mine at all. When the secret was about to be exposed, and a large number of foreign cultivators smelled the scent and began to appear on the Crimson Flame planet, Yang Tian arrived. When he came to the Death Star Field, Yang Tian had already made preparations. He brought the first batch of teleportation formation discs produced by the secret base. The Death Star Field was called the Death Star Field because of its barren resources. In the words of the humans on Earth, it was a godforsaken place. Moreover, the Superstar God Temple had issued a no-fly order in this starfield, not allowing spaceships to enter. As a result, this starfield was isolated. Under such circumstances, it was very difficult for people who came to the Death Starfield from the Exile planet to leave the Death Starfield. Now that the Superstar God Temple had issued an order to cancel the no-fly order, a large number of wandering cultivators came here. Even a wandering cultivator of the lowest realm could become a boss after coming here. Fortunately, Professor Shenwu, Professor Fu Wei, Chu Yin, and Guiying came here and temporarily protected Qin Lao and the others. However, their strength was limited and couldn't protect all the Fire Dragon clan members. Almost every day, there were cultivators from Earth who were killed here. It was under such circumstances that Yang Tian came here. The angry little blue dragon turned most of the wandering cultivators into ashes after a short reunion with Qin Lao and his former brothers who came to the Death Star field, Yang Tian threw these matters to Zhu Yang City. There was nothing to miss in the Death Star field. Under Zhu Yang City's leadership, Qin Lao and the others would move to the family's fortress. After that, Yang Tian went to the North Spill Starfield to secretly see his son and meet Yang Nancy. After finishing all these matters in one go, Yang Tian finally piloted the first Mighty Sky ship that had passed the test and charged into the spatial passage to another world. The spatial passage wasn't dark as Yang Tian had imagined. Instead, it was filled with countless colorful dots of light that looked like stars in the distance. As the ship sailed, these dots of light surrounded the ship and formed a strange cyclone, creating a strange scene. So beautiful! Just as Yang Tian was immersed in this beautiful scene, a little girl's voice suddenly sounded behind him. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were shocked. This voice was very familiar to Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. Yingxi, that little girl from the undead clan. Yang Tian abruptly turned around and saw Yingxi. Chapter 622. How did you get on the ship? Seeing Yingxi, Yang Tian was very surprised. There was one more person on the ship, but he and the little blue dragon didn't notice it. But thinking about it carefully, this was normal. When they set off, he and the little blue dragon didn't pay attention to the inside of the ship at all. They were also very excited. After entering the space channel, they were attracted by the situation outside. Most importantly, Yingxi's body was very special. When she didn't want to, her body would hardly release any energy aura. This was a special ability of the undead, which could make their body look like a dead person. Since they could hide their own aura, they were of course extremely sensitive to the aura of others when you said goodbye to them. Looking at Yang Tian's surprised look, Yingxi opened her eyes wide and said with a smile. At this time, Yingxi was very different from the little girl in Yang Tian's impression. Yang Tian shook his head helplessly and said to the little blue dragon, "It seems that we have to go back." The little blue dragon nodded. "Why?" Yingxi asked when she heard that they had to go back. Yang Tian said, "Because the world over there is not something you can bear. As soon as you get out of the ship, your body will be crushed to pieces." "You are wrong." After Yang Tian finished speaking, Yingxi said, "It is like this for you, but for us, the undead, it has no effect at all. If you take me back, I will be able to help." Yang Tian knew another meaning from Yingxi's words. That is, she came to this universe from that world. At this time, she was just on the way home. While talking, the situation outside changed. The countless light spots outside the ship disappeared, and in front of the bow, a huge ball of light appeared. As the ship moved forward quickly, this ball of light became bigger and bigger until it drowned the entire ship. The ship Yang Tian was riding finally rushed out of the space channel. Before Yang Tian could react, Wei Kong's warship emitted a series of creaking sounds, and then with a bang, it shattered. As soon as Wei Kong's warship shattered, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon felt a huge pressure enveloping their bodies. As the fragments of the warship fell down, they crashed to the ground in an instant. Puffed, Yang Tian, who was crushed by the heavy debris of the warship, opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't move, and his breathing became more and more difficult. After coming to this world, he suddenly became weak. The little blue dragon was small and happened to be in the gap, avoiding the fate of being smashed. Just as Yang Tian was about to reach his limit, a loud bang was heard as the warship fragment covering Yang Tian was sent flying away. The one who saved Yang Tian was Yingxi. After moving away the deformed metal fragments on Yang Tian's body, Yingxi clapped her hands and looked at Yang Tian with a smile. She said, "How was it?" "I said I could help you, right?" Yang Tian clutched his chest, struggled to sit up, and nodded to Yingxi. This time, it was all thanks to this little girl. Otherwise, he would have been crushed to death. "Okay, now I've returned the favor. Goodbye." With that, Yingxi skipped away. Looking at Yingxi's back as she left, Yang Tian opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Yang Tian and Yingxi weren't familiar with each other. She had returned to her own world and didn't want to stay with him. This was a very normal thing. The little blue dragon's eyes were also gloomy at this time because it realized that it couldn't grow bigger. Otherwise, it could have saved Yang Tian in time just now. Looking at the fragments of the ship around him, Yang Tian was glad that this ship wasn't as big and heavy as the previous one. This ship was several times smaller in size, and the main body was made of a strong metal material that was lighter than bluestone. Otherwise, he would have been crushed to death as soon as he arrived here. At this time, Yang Tian was wondering if Shi Chun and Yu Yu's group would be in the same situation when they arrived in this world. The place where the ship landed was halfway up a mountain, surrounded by short plants. As far as the eye could see, the distance was gray and the sky was the same. It seemed to be a cloudy day. Cough, cough. After coughing for a while and coughing out the blood in his throat, his breathing finally became smoother. After calming down, Yang Tian began to observe the energy world in his body. What made him feel at ease was that the original realm in his body was still there, and there were no changes. What changed was the body's cells. The body structure of living things changed according to the environment. Coming to a different environment, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's body structure had changed. After the change, the body cells could no longer contain energy, and even the energy they had before was lost. This was equivalent to, fortunately, after decades of hard work, they returned to the time before liberation. Fortunately, the original realm had not disappeared, and spirit power could still be used. It was just that it was limited by this world, and its power was much weaker. After Yang Tian observed the inside of his body, he opened his eyes and saw the little blue dragon using its spirit power to control a fist-sized stone to float in the air. In the previous universe world, it only needed a weak spirit power to do it. Now, looking at the little blue dragon's appearance, it was obvious that it was struggling. Pong! Suddenly, the stone controlled by the little blue dragon fell to the ground. It couldn't hold on any longer. Next, Yang Tian also tried, and the result was the same as the little blue dragons. After coming to this world, everything had changed. It seemed that if he wanted to have great power again, he would have to cultivate again. Just as he was about to stand up, Yang Tian's heart skipped a beat. He raised his wrist and looked at the storage bracelet on his wrist. After coming to this world, he didn't know if the storage bracelet could be used. If it couldn't be used, then it would be a big loss. Yang Tian moved his mind, and the storage bracelet's intelligent control system received his thoughts and displayed the situation inside the storage bracelet in his mind. The first step was completed. Next, Yang Tian locked onto a stone box in the storage bracelet and issued an order to the storage bracelet. Very smoothly, the stone box appeared in front of Yang Tian, and then with a pop, it shattered and turned into a pile of green stone powder. The stone box could not withstand the pressure of this space. It was just an empty stone box, and there was nothing inside. Next, Yang Tian took out a beast core from the storage bracelet. This was a purple superstar warrior level beast core. After Yang Tian took it out of the storage bracelet, the transparent protective shell shattered, and then the entire beast core dissipated at an extremely fast speed, becoming smaller and smaller. A few minutes later, in Yang Tian's palm, there was only some shell powder left. If he could take things out of the storage bracelet, then what about putting things into the storage bracelet? Yang Tian looked at a fist-sized rock and used his mind to control it. Immediately, the stone disappeared and appeared in the storage bracelet's storage bracelet. The storage bracelet could be used in this world, and this made Yang Tian feel relieved. However, a big question mark appeared in his head. At this time, the strange program said to Yang Tian, "Space is a kind of omnipresent power. The space of this world and the original universe are actually connected. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here." Yang Tian asked again, "If that's the case, then what about the teleportation array disk? If a teleportation array disk is placed in this world, can it be teleported back?" The strange program said, "The two are not the same. In the storage bracelet, there is a storage space that exists at all times. With the protection of the rune's energy, it can exist in this world. and teleportation requires opening a space channel. When a strange program said this, Yang Tian understood at once. Looking around again, Yang Tian stood up, stepped on the deformed metal plate of the warship, and walked in the direction Yuanxi left. That was the direction down the mountain. The little blue dragon still jumped on Yang Tian's shoulder. Whoosh! As Yang Tian was walking, there was a sharp whistle in front of him, and a black was rapidly enlarging in his eyes. Instinctively, Yang Tian tilted his head, and a sharp arrow brushed past his cheek. With a thud, it stabbed into the trunk of a short tree behind Yang Tian. Yang Tian glanced at the trembling arrow on the tree trunk. As soon as he turned his head, he felt a chill on his neck, and then heard a whoosh. What appeared in Yang Tian's eyes was a long-haired young man in black with a bow on his back. Yang Tian didn't dare to move. For this world, the current Yang Tian was only equivalent to an ordinary human. This person pressed a silver curved sword against Yang Tian's neck, looked at Yang Tian for a moment, and then said a few words with a smile. Yang Tian didn't understand his words, and there was confusion in his eyes. Seeing Yang Tian's eyes, the young man in black nodded, slapped the little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder away with his sword, and then hooked his finger at Yang Tian. Everyone understood this gesture. The young man in black was asking Yang Tian to follow him. Yang Tian could only nod helplessly. Chapter 6:23. The little blue dragon returned to Yang Tian's shoulder gloomily. The man in black's contempt just now made it very angry. Staring at the back of the man in black, the little blue dragon's eyes were about to spit fire. But now it could only endure. With its and Yang Tian's current strength, it was simply not a match for the man in black. Now for Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, it was more important to save their lives for the time being. They could only take one step at a time. The man in black took Yang Tian to an aircraft and locked him and the little blue dragon in a dark cabin. This was a very simple aircraft. It was less than 20 meters long and had a flat, triangular shape. The interior space was very narrow. After being locked in the cabin, the air became stuffy. When the aircraft moved, it made a rumbling noise as if it was going to fall apart at any time. After a few minutes, Yang Tian felt the aircraft leave the ground and fly into the air. Yang Tian was very nervous. Ever since he became a warrior, he had never felt so helpless. He once again experienced the feeling of being a weakling. This feeling was very uncomfortable. He could not help but think of what the man in black said to him. About half an hour later, the aircraft finally landed on the ground. A few minutes later, the cabin door opened and harsh light shone into the dark cabin. Yin Yin hashtag it. Then, a burst of curses entered Yang Tian's ears. Although he did not understand, Yang Tian knew that the man in black wanted him to get out immediately. After jumping from the cabin to the ground, Yang Tian did not have time to react. A silver-white metal collar appeared on his neck and automatically tightened, causing Yang Tian to feel tight. Fortunately, this kind of thing could be adjusted automatically. After tightening, it loosened a little. Cough, cough. Yang Tian, who had not fully recovered from his injuries, felt better after coughing for a while. At this moment, he saw a middle-aged man in yellow handing over a fist-sized black cloth bag to the young man in black. The black-clothed young man opened the bag and took a look. He then used his hand to gently pinch it a few times. After nodding with satisfaction, he returned to the spaceship. Seeing this, Yang Tian touched the collar on his neck, knowing that he had been sold by the young man in black. Yin Yin hashtag at. After the black-clothed young man left, the middle-aged man said a few words to Yang Tian before turning around and leaving. Even though they didn't know what the middle-aged man was talking about, they could only obediently follow behind him more than 30 days later. Yang Tian, how's your mission for this cycle coming along? A stooped old man in tattered clothes walked over and asked with a smile. He also had a silver necklace around his neck. It's done, Yang Tian replied with a smile. Having been in this world for more than 30 days, Yang Tian had already learned the language and writing of this world. The reason why he was so fast was all thanks to this old man, called Bai Song. This. Hearing Yang Tian's words, Bai Song chuckled and rubbed his hands. Yang Tian understood Bai Song's meaning and handed a bag of Laos crystal granules to Bai Song. After Bai Song took it, he chuckled and scratched his head in a simple and honest manner. Little Blue Dragon saw this from the side, and its eyes were full of disdain. In its opinion, this old man came over every day to freeload. It helped Yang Tian collect Laos crystals, and at least gave half of it to this old man. If it wasn't for Yang Tian saving Bai Song when he first came, Bai Song would have died in the mine. Yang Tian was now in a Laos crystal mine. Laos crystals in this world were equivalent to the stellar crystals in Yang Tian's original world. Laos crystals were light purple crystals that contained a large amount of energy. It could be directly absorbed by cultivators to increase the energy in their bodies. However, to absorb the energy of Laos crystals, one needed a special technique. In this world, Laos crystals were also a hard currency. The currency issued by each country was also based on the amount of Laos crystals. The mining of Laos crystals was mainly done manually. This was because in a large mine, the distribution of Laos crystals was uneven. Sometimes they existed in large patches. Sometimes they were scattered far apart. In the ores, they all existed in the form of granules of different sizes. If a machine was used, the Laos crystals would be easily destroyed. Actually, the more important reason was that this world had a powerful machine race. As long as they wanted to, they could invade and control all the machines that were controlled by programs. Yang Tian and Little Blue Dragon were now in a deep cave in the mine. The light was rather dim. Every 5 days or so, Yang Tian and the rest of the miners who wore rune necklaces around their necks would have to hand over the Laos crystals they mined. This was because the miners in the mine were not powerful cultivators and did not know how to absorb Laos crystals. Therefore, as long as they did not leave the mine and handed over the Laos crystals according to the set amount, they were relatively free in the mine. However, if they could not complete it, the consequences would be quite serious. If it was light, they would not have any food. If it was heavy, the mine owner would directly detonate the rune necklaces on their necks. Bai Song had worked here for over 100 years. Due to the long years of labor, he had long run out of oil. When Yang Tian was brought in by a subordinate of the mine owner, Bai Song was about to die of hunger. Yang Tian had to share half of his food with Bai Song before Bai Song could be saved. It was worth mentioning that Yang Tian's storage bracelet, as well as the insect brain pendant and everything else on him, had been taken away. They were temporarily kept in the hands of the mine owner. Fortunately, the strange program had already been transferred to Yang Tian's brain before the mine owner took away the insect brain pendant. Moreover, the strange program had also memorized the graphics and words on the scroll. "It's almost time. Let's go out." Yang Tian looked at Bai Song's smiling face and said with a smile. Yang Tian was a very loyal person, and Bai Song was also quite pitiful. When he was young, he was sold to this Laos mine. He had not been able to leave for 100 years and had to work until he died. In fact, this was the fate of most of the miners. Of course, the family that owned this Laos mine, in order to give the miners hope and prevent them from rebelling, formulated a reward measure. As long as one could complete the triennial assessment, they could become a domestic guard of the family. Of course, this assessment was very harsh. There were tens of thousands of miners in the mine. Every 3 years, less than 10 people could pass the assessment. The content of the assessment was, first, to search for ores and collect as many Laos crystals as possible within a specified time. Second, physical fitness, including strength and endurance. Third, talent for cultivation. Fourth, whether or not one had any special skills. The people who were sold or sold to the mines were all very ordinary humans. Therefore, most of the miners did not have much hope. During the assessment, there were actually very few people who signed up. Humans were creatures that were easy to get used to. If they stayed in the mine for a long time, it would become a habit. Even if they were asked to leave the mine, they would probably not be willing. This was just like those prisoners on Earth who had been locked up for decades. Once they were released, they would probably not be happy, but feel confused about the future. Yang Tian took the little blue dragon and walked in a mine for about half an hour with Bai Song before leaving the mine. After staying in the mine for a long time, Yang Tian felt that the light was particularly dazzling as soon as he left the mine. It took a few minutes for him to get used to it. The little blue dragon lying on Yang Tian's shoulder was no exception. Every time it was due to deliver, it was the busiest day in the mine. Tens of thousands of miners all came out of the mine and lined up in dozens of lines. They passed by a pavilion and handed over the louse crystals they collected. Those who exceeded the quota would receive a bonus. Miners who received a bonus could spend money in the casino, brothel, restaurant, and other entertainment venues in the mine. If the mission was not completed, they would not even receive the standard food. Chapter 6:24. Yang Tian and Bai Song were considered to have come out relatively late. They lined up at the back of the long line and slowly moved forward with the line. This mining area was a continuous range of mountains with a radius of hundreds of kilometers. The periphery was surrounded by thick metal walls. Other than being able to trap the miners, the metal walls were also a kind of territory marking. Bai Song told Yang Tian that within this range of tens of thousands of kilometers, there were countless mining areas of various sizes. The structure of this world seemed to be different from Yang Tian's original world. It was an entire continent. Above the continent, there were also clouds and stars rising and falling. When night fell, the sky would also be filled with stars. This was somewhat in line with the ancient saying of the sky is round and the earth is round. In fact, from He Luoyang's memory fragments, Yang Tian also learned about the structure of this world. To ordinary humans, this world was too big. They would never be able to travel through the entire continent in their lifetime. Moreover, it was not just this continent. To Yang Tian, this kind of world was a truly exciting world. In fact, after Yang Tian learned the language and writing of this world, he could leave at any time. The strange program on his neck had already calculated a way to break the collar on his neck. The reason why Yang Tian stayed here was because he knew that things had to be done step by step. After escaping this place, where could he go? In this world, he was only a small character. If he left this place, he would have to face even more unknown dangers. Only when he became stronger and left this place would he have the ability to protect himself and search for Qin Fei's whereabouts. As the line slowly moved forward, it was finally Yang Tian's turn to deliver the goods. Although he gave a portion to Bai Song, with the help of the little blue dragon, Yang Tian still exceeded the quota. It was worth mentioning that in this world, there were also pet beasts. Yang Tian had the little blue dragon to help him mine, which made the other miners envious. The manager of the mining area weighed the louse crystal that Yang Tian handed over and nodded. He took out $500 bills from a drawer under the table. Yang Tian received it with a smile. When it was Bai Song's turn, the manager glanced at him with disdain. After checking the lice crystal he handed over, he waved his hand impatiently. Everyone in this mining area knew that Bai Song was actually relying on Yang Tian to survive because Bai Song's eyesight had long since deteriorated. The world had no sympathy for the weak, especially in a mining area like this. The amount that Bai Song handed over was just enough. After handing over the goods, the miners separated and gathered in twos and threes. Taking advantage of a short break, they began to gamble with dice. A portion of the people returned to the mine. They either continued to collect lice crystals or rested. Another group of people hurried to the entertainment area in the mining area. Yang Tian didn't go anywhere. He found a flat piece of land and sat down, looking into the distance. Hee, Yang Tian, lend me some money. Bai Song came in front of Yang Tian, smiled, and said embarrassedly. Yang Tian gave all the rewards he had just received to Bai Song. After all, the money was useless to him. In fact, although Bai Song said he was borrowing it, he was actually giving it to Yang Tian. With Bai Song's poor eyesight, he couldn't even complete the mine's mission. He probably wouldn't be able to pay it back in this lifetime. After Bai Song took the money, he went to the entertainment area in the mining area excitedly. Yang Tian didn't need to guess to know where the old man was going. Bai Song had told Yang Tian before that a new batch of women had arrived in the mining area. Yang Tian shook his head as he looked at Bai Song's back. He thought to himself, this old man doesn't take care of his body at such an old age. I wonder if he can even move after getting on the horse. The rest time was only half a day. After Bai Song left, Yang Tian lay on the ground with his head pillowed and looked at the white clouds in the sky in a daze. After a while, he closed his eyes. Yang Tian wasn't sleeping. Instead, he released his mental power and spread it in all directions. After his injury was healed, Yang Tian kept training his mental power. His mental power was much stronger than when he first arrived. However, it still couldn't be used for combat. This was because it was so weak that it couldn't even move a 50-kilogram rock. Nevertheless, with mental power, it was very convenient to search for lice crystals in the mine. Through his mental power, Yang Tian could detect the existence of lice crystals through the mine that was a few meters thick. Yang Tian wanted to use his mental power to absorb the power of the lice crystals, but he failed. While Yang Tian was training his mental power, a huge aircraft suddenly flew over and landed on a special apron not far away. When he heard the sound from the aircraft, Yang Tian retracted his mental power and opened his eyes. This aircraft would appear after every delivery to transport the collected lice crystals away. It was worth mentioning that there were storage tools in this world too. However, the mining area was too special. Even the managers were not allowed to bring storage tools with them. They were all kept in one place. They could only be retrieved when they left the mining area. This was to prevent people from hiding things. The family that controlled this mining area was called Hui. This was no longer a secret, and all the miners in the mining area knew about it. This time, it was different from the previous times. After the aircraft stopped, a group of people walked down from the aircraft while the managers of the mining area were moving bags of lice crystals onto the aircraft. The one in the lead was a slim woman. She was dressed in a black, tight-fitting cheongsam. Just as Yang Tian was paying attention to the woman, Bai Song returned. As compared to when he left, Bai Song looked much worse. Old Bai, you're getting old. You need to control yourself, Yang Tian said with a smile. Bai Song shook his head with a smile and sighed. This is my hobby for the rest of my life. I won't live for long anyway. The sooner I die, the sooner I'll be free. As he spoke, Bai Song also saw the woman in front of him. The woman was followed by a dozen guards. She was walking along the path in the mining area toward Yang Tian. Soon, she was getting closer. Looking at the woman, Bai Song's eyes widened as he mumbled, if I can sleep with her, even if I die immediately, it'll be worth it. It was no wonder that Bai Song would sigh like that. The woman was too beautiful and sexy. She was about 9 meters tall, and her tight-fitting black clothes showed off her perfect figure. She also had a very mature aura. This kind of woman, regardless of whether it was young or old, was extremely lethal. Yang Tian could not help but take a few glances at her. After Bai Song finished speaking, he quickly shut his mouth and lowered his head. He regretted it as soon as he finished speaking. This woman was clearly not an ordinary human. She had excellent hearing. She might have heard what he said. Was he not courting death? Bai Song's worries became reality. The woman in black frowned and walked toward Yang Tian. Whoosh! When she was dozens of meters away, the woman in black moved and appeared in front of Yang Tian. She was less than 10 meters away. While moving at high speed, her body brought about a strong gust of wind. Pung! Next, a long black whip appeared in the woman's hand. She whipped it toward Bai Song and slapped it on the ground, creating a deep trench. The black whip did not hit Bai Song because Yang Tian had pushed Bai Song. Otherwise, Bai Song's body would have been torn apart by the whip. This kind of power was not something that an ordinary human could withstand. Seeing that Yang Tian had helped Bai Song, the woman in black looked at Yang Tian with a gloomy face. As she got closer, the woman looked even more beautiful. Even if she was not happy, she still had a different kind of charm. Seeing the woman in black staring at him, Yang Tian became nervous. He knew that it was stupid to provoke such a powerful person at this time. However, he could not just watch Bai Song be killed. Chapter 625. You shouldn't have helped him. The woman in black looked at Yang Tian with a gloomy face and suddenly said, "Pah!" Before she finished speaking, without any warning, the woman in black whipped Yang Tian. Yang Tian was alert. When the whip came, he dodged sideways in time. But after the whip hit the ground, the tip of the whip bounced and hit Yang Tian's back. Although it was only the remaining force of the whip, Yang Tian couldn't bear it. He groaned and crawled on the ground. This made Yang Tian dizzy. He felt as if his internal organs were about to be displaced. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing that Yang Tian was injured, the little blue dragon was angry. He jumped high and rushed toward the woman in black's face. But the woman in black raised her hand and slapped him to the side. This seemed to be an understatement, but in fact, it was very strong. After the little blue dragon fell to the ground, he couldn't get up for a long time. After slapping the little blue dragon, the woman in black raised her whip again. Looking at her movements, it seemed that she was going to whip Yang Tian. Bai Song was shocked and quickly rushed to Yang Tian. He begged the woman in black for mercy. "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have said such things. If you want to hit someone, hit me. If you kill him, the mine will get a lot less louse crystals." Yang Tian raised his head at this time. First, he saw the woman in black's slender white legs. Then, he looked up. It was her slender waist. Finally, he saw the woman in black's delicate, expressionless face. This was a very cold woman. In the face of Bai Song's pleading, the woman in black was unmoved and raised the whip higher. This was a world where strength was respected. The weak would not get the sympathy of the strong. If she lashed out with her whip again, Bai Song and Yang Tian would both be killed. "Ahem. Beauty, do you have a man?" Yang Tian coughed a few times and asked with a smile. "How dare you?" As soon as Yang Tian's voice fell, a guard behind the black-clothed woman shouted and pulled out a silver-white long saber. But before the guard could step forward, the woman in black raised her hand to stop the guard's next move. The woman in black looked at Yang Tian and smiled. "Why do you ask?" Yang Tian said, "If you don't have a man, then killing me will be a great loss for you. You're so beautiful. Any normal man would want to sleep with you. What's so strange about that?" After Yang Tian finished speaking, his heart began to feel uneasy. The woman in black looked at Yang Yi again and said, "So, you also want to sleep with me?" Yang Tian nodded and said, "Give me 3 years, and I'll be able to get you into bed." Hearing Yang Tian's words, the woman in black couldn't help but giggle. After Yang Tian waited for a long time, the woman in black finally stopped laughing and said, "Good, then I'll give you 3 years. If you can't do it, I'll make you wish you were dead." After that, the woman in black put away her whip, turned around, and walked toward a mountain not far away to continue patrolling the mine. Yang Tian finally breathed a sigh of relief. His life was finally saved. "Annie, why did you keep that kid alive?" After the woman in black had walked for a while, a young man dressed as a guard behind the woman in black asked. The woman in black said, "Just playing around. It's easy to kill such a small character. It's just letting him live for 3 more years." The young man nodded and then smiled. "Annie, if after 3 years, that person becomes stronger than you and wants to sleep with you, what should you do? Is that possible?" The woman in black said disdainfully. The young man scratched his head and said, "That's really impossible." Yang Tian lay on the ground for a long time until the woman in black got on the aircraft and left. Only then did he turn over and sit up. The little blue dragon also suffered heavy injuries and looked a little dispirited. "Yang Tian, why did she let you go just because you said that?" Seeing that the aircraft had disappeared, the curious Bai Song dared to ask in a low voice. Yang Tian said, "This is a very proud woman, and we're the most humble people in this world." After saying this, Yang Tian closed his eyes and began to check the injuries in his body. Bai Song frowned. He couldn't understand what Yang Tian meant by this sentence. He didn't have the same experience as Yang Tian, so he naturally didn't understand Yang Tian's words. After a long time, Yang Tian opened his eyes. Bai Song had endured for a long time and asked again, "I don't understand. Can you explain it in detail? Yang Tian looked at the position of the stars in the sky. It was about half an hour before work started again. Just when he didn't know how to explain it to Bai Song, a small sandworm happened to pass by their feet. Yang Tian picked up the sandworm that was as fragile as an ant and put it in the palm of his hand. He said to Bai Song, "If this sandworm said to you, 'Give me 3 years and I could defeat you,' how would you feel?" I would be very curious and want to see how it would defeat me." After Bai Song said that, he understood immediately. At this moment, both of their hearts were filled with bitterness. Yang Tian threw the sandworm on the ground and stood up with his hand on his chest. He said, "This kind of psychological tactic is not useful for everyone. If it were the female managers in the mine, I would dare to say something similar to them. They would kill me without hesitation." The days in the mine continued. 2 months later, Bai Song finally got what he wanted. He died on the belly of a woman and left this world in the most straightforward way. According to the rules of the mine, Bai Song's body was thrown into the deep and abandoned mine pit. In the eyes of others, Yang Tian finally had one less burden. However, for Yang Tian, there was one less person to talk to. He couldn't help but feel sad for a few days. After all, the old man Bai Song was the first friend Yang Tian made after coming to this world. After another month, the mine's assessment began. Yang Tian signed up. This was a chance for him to get out of this Laos mine. If he failed, Yang Tian decided to dig a hole and leave this place directly. Previously, with Bai Song here, he couldn't bear to leave Bai Song and had been hesitating. But after Bai Song died, he still persisted for so long. Why was that? Thinking about it, Yang Tian found that after experiencing so many things, he had become a proud person to the bone. Even if the woman in black forgot about him, he would let her remember him again and let her remember him forever. The hatred of that whip, he would get back 10 times, 100 times. For most of the miners, this kind of assessment was like a decoration. Even if they signed up, they wouldn't be able to pass, because the requirements of the assessment were too harsh. Mining in the mine was not a problem. After staying in the mine for so long, they could tell whether there were Laos crystals in the ore by looking at the color of the ore. Physical fitness was also not a problem. Mining was a kind of physical work. As long as there was no lack of food, the body would always be strong. What was difficult was the cultivation talent and the specialty. If one had the talent for cultivation, would they still be sold to the mine? Having a specialty was also the same. Of course, the specialty was not a specialty of life skills, but a specialty that was directly related to cultivation. For example, being proficient in runes, forging weapons and armors, etc. Therefore, although the mine announced the start of the assessment registration, less than 1/10 of the people participated. The number of people was about a few thousand. Most of these people who signed up were newcomers. In their hearts, they still had hope of getting out. After staying in the mine for a long time and experiencing several failures, they would be discouraged. They were not willing to pay the registration fee. With this money, they might as well find a woman to have fun with. Yang Tian handed all the bonuses to the mine's management and signed up. 3 days later, the assessment finally began. Chapter 6:26. The assessment began. The first stage was mining. To the miners, this was very simple. Without the help of the little blue dragon, Yang Tian passed within the stipulated time. Out of the thousands of miners who participated in the assessment, 3,000 passed. In the second stage, 3,000 people ran around the mountain path of the mine. The first 500 people to complete a lap would enter the next round of assessment. The rest would be eliminated. The entire mine was hundreds of kilometers wide. It was not easy to run around the mountain path of the mine. This stage mainly tested one's endurance. The Hui family did not only have this mine. Every 3 years, more than 10 mines like this would be assessed at the same time. During the assessment process, the Hui family would naturally send professionals to take care of it. The management of the mine was good at managing the miners, but to find someone with some cultivation aptitude, forget it. From this assessment, it could be seen that the humans in this world had good physiques. If it was not for the quota, at least half of the people could complete the task of running 1 lap. Every assessment took 3 days. During these 3 days, the miners did not have to work. It was equivalent to 3 days off. Although most of the people did not sign up, they gathered in the middle of the mine to watch the excitement. Some of them even started betting on how many stages the participants could pass or who would win in the end. Those who paid extra for the registration would naturally receive preferential treatment. Yang Tian received a day of rest and a few nutritious meals. After a good rest and a full meal, he naturally had more energy to participate in the assessment. Yang Tian passed the second stage easily. After coming to this world, although he had lost most of his strength, his physique was still much stronger than the ordinary humans in this world. The third stage tested one's strength. The people sent down from above placed a black stone locked the size of a basket in the field. As long as the participants could lift it and walk 10 steps, they would pass the assessment. More than half of the participants were eliminated in this stage. Only 155 people passed. Yang Tian was naturally among the 100 people. According to Yang Tian's estimation, this stone lock was about 250 to 600 pounds. The fourth stage tested one's cultivation aptitude and specialty. As for cultivation talent, Yang Tian and the others didn't need to do anything. They just needed to stand there. Then, a few middle-aged men were sent down to touch Yang Tian and the others' arms, shoulders, and calves. Yang Tian guessed that it was probably examining the muscles, bones, and other conditions. In terms of cultivation talent, more than half of the people were eliminated. In the end, only 10 people passed. What surprised Yang Tian was that he was actually thought to have no talent for cultivation. These people in charge of the assessment really had no foresight. Yang Tian thought. Yang Tian had no doubt that he could become a powerhouse. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon looked at each other, then said to a tall middle-aged man in a black robe, "I have a specialty." "What's his specialty?" the black-robed middle-aged man asked. Yang Tian said, "I know runes." As soon as Yang Tian's voice fell, the black-robed middle-aged man laughed. Knowing runes isn't as simple as knowing them. You have to combine them to produce power. "No problem," Yang Tian replied very confidently. In terms of runes, Yang Tian believed that no one could compare to the strange program. Even the rune masters of this world definitely couldn't compare to the strange program. What the strange program lacked now was only rune information. In Yang Tian's universe world, the rune information that appeared was definitely not as rich as this world. From the collar on Yang Tian's neck, the strange program had collected many runes that it had never read before. Seeing Yang Tian's confident appearance, the black-robed middle-aged man's eyes showed a look of doubt. Because it was almost impossible for a person who knew runes to wander to the mining area and become a lowly miner. The black-robed middle-aged man was silent for a while, then said to Yang Tian, "All right then, prove it to me. If you really have talent in runes, the Hui family definitely won't let you go to waste." "How do I prove it?" Yang Tian asked. The black-robed middle-aged man said, "Do as you see fit." The most direct method was to remove the collar on the neck. This wouldn't take much time, but Yang Tian thought for a while and decided not to do such a shocking thing. The collars on the necks of the miners were definitely designed by an expert. If he removed it so easily, the Hui family would definitely be shocked and then suspect that what happened next would be out of Yang Tian's control. It was better to just show off a little. "Do you have a rune pen?" Yang Tian nodded and asked. The black-robed middle-aged man shook his head. "I don't know runes, so naturally I don't have a rune pen." After he finished speaking, he looked at the other 5 companions. The 5 of them also shook their heads. Yang Tian said, "Then return my storage bracelet to me. My rune pen is inside." The middle-aged man nodded and glanced at the manager beside him. The manager immediately turned and left. Half an hour later, he took Yang Tian's storage bracelet and the bug-brain pendant and returned them to Yang Tian. Storage tools seem to be very difficult to decipher in this world. Otherwise, these things wouldn't have been left behind until now. The manager had been gone for so long, so he probably found them after rummaging through the storeroom for a long time. It was good that these things weren't lost. Yang Tian couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Yang Tian hung the bug brain pendant around his neck and the 3 storage bracelets on his wrists. Seeing that Yang Tian actually had 3 storage bracelets, the black-robed middle-aged man was slightly surprised. This was because storage bracelets weren't something that ordinary people could obtain. The black-robed middle-aged man was a little suspicious of Yang Tian's identity. However, the situation in the mining area was complicated. The mine owners in charge of the mining area bribed people for profit. As long as they could mine and didn't threaten the safety of the mining area, they didn't care who they bought or who they used to be. Under everyone's curious gazes, Yang Tian took out the rune pen that High Priest Tai Yu had given him from his storage bracelet. This rune pen was made of a special material, so it wasn't damaged after it was taken out. It was fine as long as it could be used. Yang Tian then walked to the black stone lock that he had used to test his strength on. Since he was free to do as he pleased, Yang Tian communicated with the strange program in his mind and came up with a plan. With the strange program controlling his body, it took more than half an hour for Yang Tian to carve runes of various sizes on the black stone lock. After he was done, Yang Tian put away the rune pen in his storage bracelet and turned to the black-robed middle-aged man with a smile. "It's done." The black-robed middle-aged man walked forward and grabbed the stone lock by its handle, lifting it up easily. Pung! After fiddling with it for a while, the black-robed middle-aged man casually threw the stone lock on the ground and smiled. "Not bad. You've reduced its weight by a third." Then, the black-robed middle-aged man immediately said, "However, this method won't let you pass my test." "Your test?" Yang Tian was surprised. "That's right." The black-robed middle-aged man said, "I have the final say in this mining area's test. If I say no, it means no. Then give me your test. Let's see if I can do it." Yang Tian said helplessly. Yang Tian understood that the man in front of him was deliberately making things difficult for him. This could be because the man didn't like him, but it could also be because he wanted to force out his potential and see how deep his attainments and runes were. The black-robed, middle-aged man smiled and pointed at the mountaintop in front of them. "If you can make it disappear from my sight, then you pass." He wanted Yang Tian to set up an illusion formation. No problem. These words weren't spoken by Yang Tian, but by the strange program in his mind to Yang Tian. Yang Tian nodded and walked toward the short mountain a kilometer away. Chapter 6:27. Can he do it? After Yang Tian left, one of the black-robed middle-aged man's men asked curiously. The black-robed middle-aged man smiled and said, "How would I know? However, if he can really do it, his attainments and runes are not bad. I must recommend him to the higher-ups. Such a talent cannot be buried." Half an hour later, snap! Yang Tian, who was standing at the foot of the hill, put a large rune pen in his hand into his storage bracelet and raised his hand to snap his fingers. The hill, which was hundreds of meters in radius, suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight. A wide mountain path appeared at the original location of the mountain peak. If they were not familiar with this place, they would never have thought that there would be an invisible hill here. It was hidden too well. When the surrounding miners saw this scene, their eyes widened in unison. To them, this was simply too magical. After making the hill in front of them disappear, Yang Tian quickly walked back to the black-robed middle-aged man and said with a smile, "It's done." As soon as Yang Tian's voice fell, the hidden hill suddenly appeared again. The black-robed middle-aged man was about to praise Yang Tian when he saw this scene. He could not help but frown and ask, "What's going on?" Yang Tian explained, "Because there was not enough energy, I used the energy of the airflow. As long as the airflow slows down and the energy is insufficient, this hill will appear. Moreover, the rune array that hides this hill will not exist for long." As Yang Tian spoke, the hill in front of him disappeared again. The black-robed middle-aged man felt the change in the airflow and nodded to Yang Tian. "Good, you passed the test." After that, the black-robed middle-aged man turned around and said to his 5 men, "The test is over. We should go back." When he heard the black-robed middle-aged man say that he passed the test, Yang Tian could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, he could leave the mine. Under the envious gazes of the miners, Yang Tian and the other 10 miners who passed the test boarded a huge aircraft. After the aircraft took off, it quickly disappeared from the sight of the miners. Yang Tian and the other 10 miners who had passed the test were all in a dimly lit cabin. They could not see the situation outside. After the aircraft took off, one of the young men smiled and said, "We're finally out of the mining area. We're really lucky this time." As soon as he finished speaking, a short-haired young man with a scar on his face said indifferently, "Don't be happy too early. You might be able to live a peaceful life in the mining area, but if you enter the Hui family, you might die very quickly." "Why do you say that?" Yang Tian asked. The miners in the mining area were the lowest level people in this world. They were also the group of people who received the least amount of information in this world. After staying in the mining area for several months, Yang Tian still had no concrete impression of this world. He was very curious about everything. Scarface looked at Yang Tian and said, "You will know when the time comes." Then, Scarface closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. Since Scarface did not say anything, Yang Tian could not force him. After looking at the little blue dragon on his shoulder, he closed his eyes as well. In fact, if he had displayed his mental power to the black-robed middle-aged man during the test, the man would probably have paid more attention to Yang Tian. However, Yang Tian understood that he could not reveal his trump card. Only then would it be useful during crucial moments. About 10 minutes later, the aircraft trembled and made a rumbling sound as if it had encountered a strong airflow. Everyone in the cabin opened their eyes wide. They were afraid that the aircraft would crash in an accident. If that happened, it would be too unjust. Yang Tian could not help but think, this world technology is too backward. He did not expect that the human world was unwilling to use tools made by electronic technology because of the existence of the machinery race in this world. The aircraft's control system used rune energy. The humans in this world used runes very simply and were far inferior to electronic technology. Therefore, this kind of aircraft that could fly like a spaceship was only an aircraft and not a spaceship. A spaceship was a flying device that could leave the planet's gravity and go into the universe. However, this aircraft did not even seem to be able to withstand the strong airflow. It was far inferior to a spaceship. While the miners were anxious, the aircraft quickly stopped trembling and returned to a stable flying state. After about 10 minutes, the aircraft finally began to slow down and slowly landed. Tens of seconds later, there was a boom sound. The aircraft trembled for a moment before it stopped moving. They had finally arrived. After the cabin door opened, Yang Tian and the others quickly got off the aircraft. The aircraft was parked on a higher ground. It was a huge circular platform with a diameter of a few hundred meters. Since it used rune energy, it was estimated that the aircraft could not be stored in a storage tool. There were 5 other aircraft that were about 30 meters long on the parking lot. Surrounding this circular platform were houses that were arranged in a circle. Looking at it, it looked like a huge 8 trigrams diagram. The main color of the houses was black, and they were very beautiful. There were green plants planted in between the houses. The houses were like ripples that extended into the distance. Even with Yang Tian's eyesight, he could not see the end of it. The middle-aged man in the black robe walked down the aircraft and looked at Yang Tian. He smiled and said, "This is the Hui family. It occupies 100 square miles and has tens of millions of powerful cultivators. It controls 55 big cities." When he said this, the middle-aged man in the black robe was very proud. It was as if he was a member of the Hui family. After the middle-aged man in the black robe finished speaking, Yang Tian nodded and asked, "I haven't asked for your name, sir." "I am He Xianwenjiang," the middle-aged man in the black robe said. After he finished speaking, he walked down the stone steps outside the circular platform. The others immediately followed. This world also had a teleportation array disk, but the shape was slightly different. In Yang Tian's original world, the teleportation array disk was circular. In this world, the teleportation array disk was hexagonal. He Xianwen, Jiang brought Yang Tian and the others to the teleportation platform. Just as he was about to walk up, a ring-shaped object on his wrist lit up with red light. Seeing this, He Xianwen Jiang frowned and said to one of his subordinates, "Take them to the one-star village to report. I have something to do." After the subordinate nodded, He Xianwen Jiang disappeared from Yang Tian and the other's sight. The teleportation process was no different from what Yang Tian had experienced before. A blue light lit up in front of his eyes. When the blue light disappeared, the teleportation was complete. After exiting the teleportation platform, Yang Tian and the others found that they were far away from the circular platform where the aircraft was parked. They appeared in the middle of a low building. He Xianwen Zhang's subordinates led Yang Tian and the others into a courtyard and immediately left. In this person's opinion, Yang Tian and the others were minors, so there was no need to pay attention to them. They could be trained by the people below them. After He Xianwen Zhang's subordinates left, a group of people in tight black clothes rushed out from various rooms and surrounded Yang Tian and the others. They crossed their arms and looked at Yang Tian and the others with disdain. The leader was a fat, middle-aged man. He looked a little arrogant. He glanced at Yang Tian and the others and said indifferently, "From today onwards, you are under my command. You have to do whatever I tell you to do. If you don't listen, go back to the mines." After the fat man finished speaking, he waved his hand and said to the group of men in black, "Same old rules. Beat them up first." As soon as he finished speaking, more than 20 men in black rushed toward Yang Tian and the others. Chapter 628. After a series of pong 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 sounds, apart from Yang Tian, who was still standing, the rest of the 11 people who came out of the mine were all lying on the ground, their bodies curled up in pain. Beside Yang Tian's feet were 5 men in black. 2 of them had deep claw marks on their necks, and fresh blood was seeping out of the wounds. This was all done by the little blue dragon. If the little blue dragon had not shown mercy, the 2 of them would have been dead by now. The 20 men in black were actually not that strong. They were only slightly stronger than the miners. It was impossible for them to defeat Yang Tian and give him a good beating. The 10 men in black clenched their fists and looked at their 5 companions who were lying on the ground, crying out in pain. Although they had surrounded Yang Tian, no one dared to step forward. The 5 men lying on the ground were the result of that. These 5 men were not much better off than the 10 miners who had just arrived. In fact, their injuries were even more serious. Fatty did not make a move. Seeing that Yang Tian was not beaten down and was not injured at all, he laughed and said, "Finally, I have seen someone who is not a piece of trash. From today onwards, you are my subordinate." After saying that, the fatty pointed at the dozen people on the ground, including the 5 black-clothed subordinates, and said coldly, "From today onwards, the chores in the courtyard, as well as the cleaning of the nearby streets, will be done by you all. When you satisfy me, I will let you start training and cultivating. Our Hui, E-clan does not raise trash." When Yang Tian heard the word cultivating, his eyes lit up. After Fatty finished teaching the 10 newcomers a lesson, he hooked his finger at Yang Tian and went back to the biggest room in the yard. "Come sit." When Yang Tian followed him into the room, Fatty was already sitting in front of a round table. He pointed at the stool beside him and said. Yang Tian smiled and nodded, sitting beside Fatty. Fatty poured a cup of water for Yang Tian and asked with a smile, "What is your name?" "Yang Tian." Yang Tian replied. As soon as he said that, the little blue dragon squeaked twice. Yang Tian said, "It is called Xiao Long." Fatty nodded and said, "Your pet beast is also very powerful." "My name is Katsa. From now on, you will be my closest subordinate. Whatever I ask you to do, you must complete it. I will give you a lot of benefits." As Fatty spoke, the little blue dragon stared at Fatty's butt and remembered Juice City. "Everyone, stand properly. Half squat, straighten your back, and look straight." After the Fatty finished speaking, he heard a loud shout coming from outside. From the looks of it, the 10 people who came with Yang Tian were already undergoing training. The content of the training was actually the most basic horse stance. Yang Tian couldn't help but turn his head and look outside. Katza said, "For an expert like you, this kind of training is not necessary. You can directly cultivate our Huey family's basic cultivation method." After saying that, Katza stood up slightly and pulled out a 4-page book from under his butt and handed it to Yang Tian. "This is a cultivation method?" Yang Tian hurriedly took it and flipped open the greasy book. The words on the cover could not be seen clearly. Yang Tian also had the cultivation method of this world. The scroll he obtained in the Dragon Starfield recorded the cultivation method of this world. But Yang Tian realized that he couldn't cultivate the cultivation method recorded in the scroll, because he couldn't understand a lot of the words, especially some of the technical terms. This made Yang Tian realize that if he wanted to cultivate in this world, he would have to start learning the basics. After reading a few lines of text, Yang Tian's eyes lit up. That was because what was recorded in this book was a basic cultivation technique. Before coming to this world, the mysterious masked man in black told him that the cultivation method of this world was completely different. Most importantly, it depended on one's comprehension ability. After reading for a while, Yang Tian became engrossed. In this book, the cultivation method of this world was described in detail. This cultivation method was basically the same as the cultivation method of the previous world. One had to open up an energy world in the body and store a large amount of energy. In the previous universe, whether it was the cultivation of bloodline power or chi meridian power, it was all to change the cell structure of the body. In other words, it was a kind of evolution. It was the same in this world. But the goal of evolution was more advanced. On the path of cultivation, in the previous universe where Yang Tian came from, the process of cultivating from an ordinary human to the great star god realm was just a foundation process. Because if one's body wasn't strong enough, after coming to this world, one's body would be crushed into powder by the space power of this world. Of course, one wouldn't be able to come into contact with more advanced cultivation methods and wouldn't be able to go further on the path of evolution. People born in this world were different. Their cells were born to the extent that they could resist the space power of this world. This world mainly cultivated the energy world, but the end result wasn't to strengthen the body. Instead, it was to get rid of the shackles of the body and make one's consciousness independent of the body. Because one's consciousness wasn't restricted by space and time energy, and the body was a physical existence. No matter how strong the body was, it would be affected by the laws of space and time. Of course, to be able to completely separate one's consciousness from the body and exist forever, one had to reach the highest realm. When cultivating from the foundation, the body would naturally be strengthened, and the consciousness would become stronger as the body became stronger. In the previous world, cultivation was to constantly strengthen the cells, but in this world, there were more changes. In this aspect, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon had both achieved it. For example, the little blue dragon could become bigger or smaller, and Yang Tian could transform into a dragon. In the previous world, the cells absorbed energy like they were swallowing dates. But in this world, the cultivation method was to refine the cells, changing their structure and material. In this world, there were a total of 18 levels of cultivation. From low to high, they were impulse, returnance, illusion, life comprehension, 100 changes, and astral projection. These were the 6 major realms, and each realm had 3 minor realms. They could be said to be front, middle, and back, or lower, middle, and upper. After completing the mission of these 18 realms, the final realm would be the godhood realm. As the name implied, it was a godlike existence. The impulse realm was the beginning of the cultivation process. Through the constant absorption of energy, the cells in the body began to change, manifesting an increase in strength and speed. Reaching the returnance realm meant that the cells in the body could hold energy and begin to change qualitatively. The illusion realm was a world of energy formed in the body. If one compared energy to water and cells to fruit trees, then the world of energy would be a reservoir that could allow the cells in the body to be constantly irrigated, accelerating the transformation. In truth, Yang Tian had already achieved this step. Most of the cultivators from the other universe who came to this world had already achieved it. Life comprehension was to comprehend the profound meaning of life, turning the world of energy into a complete universe where life could exist. 100 changes. At this realm, the cells in the body had finally evolved to a deeper level. They would not be restricted by space energy, and as long as they had the corresponding genetic information, they would be able to transform like Sun Wukong. Astral projection. The consciousness could temporarily leave the body and go to a faraway place, thousands of miles away in a single thought. Finally, there was the godhood realm. After reaching this realm, one was basically equivalent to a creator. They could be as powerful as they wanted to be. The abilities they had were only unimaginable, but there was nothing they could not do. Phew! After reading the entire book, Yang Tian could not help but let out a long sigh. 18 realms, plus the ultimate godhood. It was a long way to go to reach such a realm. While Yang Tian was reading, Fatty Cha kept staring at Yang Tian. He was observing Yang Tian's reaction. Chapter 629. Have you finished reading? When Yang Tian closed the book, Karst asked with a smile. Yang Tian nodded. Have you memorized everything? Karst asked again. Yang Tian nodded again. Karst asked again. Have you understood? Yang Tian didn't give a straightforward answer this time. Instead, he recalled the basic cultivation method recorded in the book. When he felt that he had memorized and understood the meaning, he nodded again. Do you know why I'm so good to you? Karst said with a smile. He didn't wait for Yang Tian to shake his head and patted his shoulder. Because I think highly of you. Yang Tian didn't say anything. The corner of his mouth curled up. Obviously, this wasn't Karst's real reason. There was no free lunch in this world. Karst saw Yang Tian's disdainful look. He laughed and said, You have benefited from me, so you owe me a favor. I don't have any cultivation talent, but if I could get a powerful subordinate, I can get some benefits. As long as you don't forget about me when you become powerful in the future. Yang Tian nodded. He believed that Karst must have said these words to many people. Of course, it seemed that Karst wouldn't waste his saliva on his subordinates. Yang Tian liked Karst's straightforward way of speaking. He thought that he must repay this guy in the future. Those people outside are a bunch of trash. The Hui family raised them to send them to their deaths. Don't think that I'm strict with them. In fact, I hope that they can survive. After saying this, Karst shook his head. His face was helpless. Karst said this to make Yang Tian have a good impression of him. He wanted to prove that he wasn't a bad person. This fellow was very shrewd and had considered everything thoroughly. He said this to make Yang Tian have a good impression of him, even if he was a sinister and cunning villain. Because every world was a world of positive energy. Even if you were a bad person, you would hope to meet a good person, right? Why is it like this? Yang Tian asked curiously. At this moment, he remembered that on the way here, Scarface, who was traveling with him, had also said something similar. At that time, when Yang Tian asked, Scarface didn't say anything. Ka-Cha said, From the high platform in the middle, you should be able to see that the houses of the Hui family are arranged in a circle, right? Ring after ring, they were actually defensive rings. Actually, it's not just the Hui family. It's the same for the other families. Why is it like this? Yang Tian asked again. You really don't know? Hearing Yang Tian's question, Karst felt that Yang Tian was very strange. This was because Yang Tian had too many problems. He didn't seem like someone from this world at all. Yang Tian said, I really don't know. Ka-Cha was surprised. You're not from the outer region, are you? What is the outer realm? Yang Tian asked again. Ka-Cha couldn't help but rub his forehead and said with a bit of pain, What do you know? Yang Tian thought about it and said, I know how to cultivate and increase my power now. What else? Ka-Cha asked. Yang Tian said with a blank face, That's all. Ka-Cha sighed. If you only know how to cultivate and nothing else, you will die even faster. Then tell me all about it. Yang Tian smiled. I won't ask where you are from. Ka-Cha said, I will tell you. This vast land is divided into 4 different regions. The most eastern region has the best environment and is called the Cloud region. The Cloud region has a large population with as many experts as the clouds. There are hundreds of thousands of big cities there. These cities are many times bigger than the Hui family's territory. In the Cloud region, even the most ordinary human lives a rich life. How envious! The most western region is where we are right now and is called the Flame region. The Flame region is the largest among the 4 regions. Although the environment is bad, people can still live there. The most northern region is the Cold region. It is the smallest region and is very cold. It has the least population. However, the people living in the Cold region are all very powerful. The most western region is the Sand region. It is a land of death. The sky is filled with black sand, and the magnetic field is chaotic. Even an illusion realm cultivator would have a hard time coming out alive after entering. Also, our Flame realm is the place with the most beasts and the place with the most Laos crystals. The 4 regions are separated by wide rivers and tall mountains. Apart from powerful cultivators, ordinary people can't cross them. Ordinary teleportation formations can't allow people to freely teleport between the 4 regions. Only special formations can do that. However, the cost of teleportation. Ordinary rich people can't afford it. I want to go to the Cloud region, but I'm poor. After sighing for a while, Karcha took a sip of water and continued, a long time ago, the experts of the big families built their territories and mines in different parts of the Flame domain. Gradually, they developed to the scale they have today. The family's territories are strong, but they are often attacked by beast hordes. It happens about once every 10 years. You might not have seen it, but when the entire family's territory is surrounded by endless beast hordes, what kind of situation is that? Kacha recalled for a moment. Under Yang Tian's expectant gaze, he continued, every time the beast horde attack the family's territory, the ones who suffer are us outside. Once every 10 years, I won't encounter it, right? After Kacha finished speaking, Yang Tian said with a smile. Kacha shook his head. I was just about to tell you this. It's been 10 years. You might not know, but the cultivators of the various families have been called to a meeting. Before the next beast hordes, they will hunt some high-level beasts to reduce the destructive power of the beast hordes. The rest of the low-level beasts will be dealt with by us. In the beast hordes, only a small number of people will survive. If you want to live a peaceful life, you have to go to the Cloud region. Then, Yang Tian asked a few more questions. But Kacha only knew this much. In this world, he was just a small character. There were some things that he had only heard from others. Unknowingly, Yang Tian had stayed in Kacha's room for more than 2 hours. When Yang Tian came out of Kacha's room, he found that the sky had darkened. Night was coming. Although Kacha thought highly of Yang Tian, he still arranged for Yang Tian to stay in a room that could accommodate 6 people. Kacha understood that he couldn't give Yang Tian too much preferential treatment. Otherwise, his subordinates wouldn't be convinced. Dinner was very simple. It was only a little better than the food in the mines. Or rather, it was a little better. It was nutritious beast meat and a small amount of vegetables. Sharing the room with Yang Tian were 5 miners who came with Yang Tian. They were already exhausted from training. After eating, they fell asleep on the bed. The air in the room was filled with the stench of sweat. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, who had a keen sense of smell, couldn't stand this kind of environment. After staying in the room for less than 5 minutes, they opened the door and left. The courtyard was paved with stone slabs. It was very clean. Yang Tian sat down cross-legged and started to practice the basic techniques of the Hui family. Speaking of the cultivation realms in this world, there were a total of 6 realms. They were impulse, origin, illusion, life comprehension, 100 changes, and astral wanderer. Yang Tian hadn't even reached the most basic impulse realm. Impulse was to continuously absorb energy and stimulate the body's cells to change. Yang Tian currently didn't have any external energy to absorb. However, he had the world of energy. The origin realm had abundant energy, so Yang Tian could try to cultivate. Yang Tian, who had the origin realm, was destined to cultivate differently from most people from the start. Chapter 630. During his previous cultivation, his cells were like exotic beasts that couldn't eat their fill. They didn't deliberately control themselves and would actively absorb energy. Now, according to the description of the basic cultivation technique, his cells had become lords and had to control the energy to feed them. According to Yang Tian's deduction, this was because his body's environment was different. In order to adapt, his cells had undergone some changes that he still couldn't understand. Although night had just fallen, they were all asleep. In the surrounding rooms, the lights that were powered by rune energy had all been extinguished. Just like the countless cultivation processes before, when Yang Tian was cultivating in peace, the little blue dragon lay on the side, guarding Yang Tian. The cultivation began with the microscopic world of the body. This step was very difficult for a cultivator who was cultivating for the first time in this world. It required a high degree of concentration and mental skills to achieve it. The basic cultivation technique that Yang Tian had read before used a large section to describe how to do this. Although it was very detailed, most people couldn't do it and couldn't become a powerful cultivator. Yang Tian already had cultivation experience in this area and could easily do it. In fact, in the few months that he had been in this world, Yang Tian had already observed the microscopic world many times. He wanted to find out what kind of changes had happened to the cells in his body. However, in the end, every cell was the same as before. The only difference was that the cells no longer contained a large amount of energy. In other words, these cells had lost the ability to contain energy. He remembered that when he cultivated the force, Yang Tian's method was to use a little to cover the whole. He would start by changing a cell in the body. This was because these cells were connected to each other through energy channels. As long as one of them was changed, the changes would be transmitted to each other. The basic cultivation technique explained that there was an invisible barrier in every cell in the body. It existed outside the cell nucleus. This energy was like a door that isolated the energy from the outside. At the same time, it also completely closed the world inside the cell nucleus. If he wanted to make the cell stronger, he had to melt this energy away. However, he had to be careful. This was a gradual process. If he rashly removed this energy, the cells would be damaged or even die. Soon, a huge cell body appeared in Yang Tian's mind. It was like a translucent, oval-shaped egg. The transparent layer on the outside was the cell wall, and the dark innermost layer was the cell nucleus. In the beginning, Yang Tian didn't use the method that he had just learned. Instead, he used a trace of his spiritual power to enter the cell nucleus. Just like before, the cell nucleus didn't have any changes. When Yang Tian no longer controlled this trace of spiritual power, the spiritual power dissipated. Then, Yang Tian tried using the force again, and the result. His cells had changed too thoroughly. One had to know that one of the three great powers that made up the origin power was the bloodline power that came from his cells. The force's force in the cell nucleus dissipated very quickly. Yang Tian was a very patient cultivator. Although he had experienced such changes many times, he still carefully observed it. Sometimes, observing the forced, that Tian Tian believed that this kind of microscopic cultivation process was like doing scientific experiments. It required the spirit of a scientist to keep on trying. During this process, Yang Tian noticed a difference. The force stayed in the cell for a longer time than the spiritual power. Yang Tian pondered for a moment before using his mental power to compress a trace of force into the nucleus of the cell. After that, he allowed the force to slowly release. This was Yang Tian's first time doing this since he came to this world. Under the constant stimulation of the force, something that surprised Yang Tian happened. The nucleus of the cell finally lit up again, producing a faint energy fluctuation. The energy wave in a cultivator's body came from these cells. When the force had completely dissipated, the cell fell silent once more. This process lasted for about 5 minutes. If this method could light up one cell, then it could light up all the cells in the body. To do this, the process had to be done in every part of the body at the same time. In this way, the energy could give the cells a lot of energy in a short time. Not only would the quality of each cell increase, but it would also give Yang Tian great strength and speed. However, this process required a huge amount of energy. If there was a huge amount of energy like a beast core to replenish, this could be done. Otherwise, the energy in the original realm would not be able to withstand the consumption. After thinking about it, Yang Tian temporarily gave up on this experiment and began to cultivate the basic cultivation method that he had just learned. The beginning of this basic cultivation method was to use one's mind to condense the energy in the body and use a strange method to open the door outside the cell nucleus. Once this door was opened, the cell nucleus could also absorb energy. The early stage of the impulse realm was able to open this door. Cultivators in this realm did not have any advantages compared to ordinary humans. In the middle stage of the impulse realm, they began to open this door continuously and began to absorb large amounts of energy. Cultivators in this realm were already different from ordinary humans. The most obvious difference was that they were full of energy and did not tire easily. Their strength was also stronger than ordinary people. In the later stage of the impulse realm, the cells had already absorbed enough energy. Cultivators in this realm were already very different from ordinary humans in this world. Comparing the two was like comparing ordinary humans on Earth to enhancers. Yang Tian already had energy in his body, so the first step of condensing energy could be avoided. According to the cultivation method's description, Yang Tian gathered a trace of energy into a ball and then scattered it into 9 streams. Within a certain range, the 9 streams of energy began to travel rapidly in different trajectories. During this process, the 9 streams of energy formed a strange pattern and produced a strange energy fluctuation. Life rune. Suddenly, the strange program's voice rang in Yang Tian's mind. Yang Tian was shocked. He lost control of the 9 streams of energy in his mind, and the 9 streams of energy dissipated. You're saying that the ultimate goal of this energy traveling method is to form life runes? And opening that door is actually to use the energy in the body to form a talisman array and produce the key to open this door? Yang Tian asked in surprise. The strange program said, that should be the case. I clearly sensed the energy of a life rune just now. In fact, the cultivation process is also a process of influencing or transforming energy into another type of energy. You can try again and see if there are any changes in your cells. Okay, Yang Tian agreed and immediately started from the beginning. In this aspect of cultivation, powerhouses in the great star god realm actually had a natural advantage. Ordinary humans in this world could not compare to them. Just like how Yang Tian controlled 9 streams of energy at the same time just now, people who had just started cultivating would need a long time to be able to do 9 things at once. Very quickly, the 9 streams of energy once again formed a talisman array and produced a strange energy fluctuation. At this time, Yang Tian separated a part of his consciousness and observed the changes in the cells in his body. With this look, Yang Tian was shocked again. This was because after the cells were stimulated by the talisman array, an originally invisible energy appeared outside the cell nucleus. It was like a bubble covered with light gold threads. The thin golden strands did not only exist on the bubble, but they also connected all the cells through the energy channels between the cells and finally extended out of the body. Yang Tian originally wanted to see where these threads ended up outside the body, but when his consciousness chased outside the body, he could not see anything. The consciousness that had left the body disappeared in an instant. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.